Hey, everybody, it's Wednesday night. Welcome to the Hang Up here on the line. You caught me just sitting here, doing nothing, thinking about stuff. Yeah, hell with it. Let's just not even bother doing a show. I mean, it's Wednesday. Nothing's changed, right? Everything's the same as it's been every other week. I had an interesting day. Not only did last night we got our first ball python eggs from our Epic Loot Exotics, and so those are now in the incubator. They plan to be scheduled to be hatching on July 11th. I sat around and I wasn't feeling well earlier, but I watched some news, and evidently Lauren Boebert's filed for divorce and then managed to embarrass herself while grilling the mayor of Washington, D.C. By asking her a bunch of questions and not letting her actually give the answer. It's funny watching these kind of conspiracy-minded, incredibly biased right-wing elected officials like Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, when they're engaged in a hearing where they're going to be asking questions. It's one thing to ask directed questions. You'll see a lot of that. You'll see some of that with End Boss, where the End Boss's job is essentially to ask directed questions to get us to a better understanding of what the person's position is. But if you don't allow any kind of answer, and if you're just asking a leading question so that you can present a statistic and then not let that be challenged, it read very, very unfair. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, because I mentioned her, was also, she embarrassed herself going after several experts. She suggested that a peaceful leftist protest there at the Capitol, where the protesters were eventually removed, were somehow violent extremists and were, I guess, on a par with the insurrectionists from January 6th. I don't know, because for the longest time, I didn't talk about politics at all until, we get the hang up here on Wednesday night and we added more political stuff, because I've been in the realm of skepticism, humanism, atheism, debating religious topics. By the way, this is a live call-in show. We'll be taking calls in a little bit. And if you are someone who has a belief in the supernatural of some sort, be it, gods, ghosts, monsters, whatever else, you can call in and defend that. And if you do well enough, or you feel that you could have done better and things didn't work out as well for you, then we'll send you a link so that you can apply to be on NBOSS as well, which is our new kind of running the gauntlet show, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. But it's my area of focus, while it's still skepticism and applied skepticism, is still tied up in religion. It's one of the reasons, it's where I think, it's what my primary activism is geared towards. And I think that has a lot to do with the way that I was raised as a fundamentalist, evangelical, Southern Baptist kid, who expected to become a preacher, whose parents expected him to become a preacher, whose deacons at his church expected him to become a preacher, and ultimately didn't, because I discovered critical thinking skills and applied them to my religion. It took a long time before I applied my skepticism, excuse me, to my religious beliefs. And when I did, the dominoes fell and the walls crumbled and there was nothing left that could be supported by belief. And yet, being a skeptic, I still have to acknowledge that my current position is still tentative, and that someone could present new evidence, a new argument, or even old evidence and old argument in a new way that I hadn't seen before, that would ultimately show that, in fact, what they believe, whether it's gods, ghouls, or ghosts, is real. And then I would have to acknowledge this and accept it. And I would. It's really that simple. But having done this for almost 20 years, 19 years ago, last month or 2 months ago, I hosted the Atheist Experience for the first time. So we're in the 20th year of me doing live call-in shows. And I've done lots and lots of debates. I have more of them scheduled. I got an offer for a couple new ones. I'll be announcing the details as we get closer, but I'm debating the resurrection on a podcast, and I'm going to debate whether or not the Gospels are reliable coming up soon, as we sort out the details and set up a format. But I got to realize, and I notice this, anybody who thinks that I just am showing up to do these shows expecting someone to call in with something new. I'm not. And if you're expecting someone to call in with someone new, I think your expectations may be misplaced. It's not that I'm expecting something new. It's that I'm expecting new people to present the same old things, to have the same misunderstandings that we've had before, and to continue working to correct that and hopefully educate and guide other people towards realizing what I realized, which is the reasons that I had for my beliefs were not good. I thought they were good. And I know plenty of apologists. I've debated many of them. And as far as I can tell, they genuinely are convinced that not only are they correct, but that their reasons are good and reasonable, just as I did, just as other people did. And I had to catch myself when I mentioned the other day after debating 3 or 4 Muslims that the Muslim apologists that I engage with are noticeably at a lower tier of general logical understanding and evidential argument building from some, not all, some of their Christian counterparts. And I may be comparing like the best and the brightest from Christendom to, the weaker presenters from Islam. I don't know. I'm not at all saying that there may be 20 Muslim apologists out there that are better than anything Christianity has to offer. I don't know. But I went specifically after the Muslims because the past few opponents that I've had have all been Muslims defending Islam, and they've all been bad and noticeably, obviously, really bad, unable to stay on target. They seem to all be incredibly impressed with what they perceive as scientific discoveries that seem to line up with something in the Quran without realizing that the Quran didn't lead us to any of those, and that it's only a matter of post hoc rationalization and interpretation that gets you to say, "Ooh, here's where this is in the Quran at all." They don't seem to understand methodology, and lately they've been defending child marriage and child rape, and these are the people that I'm expected to have to debate. And so it's very easy for me to just be like, "Wow, Muslim apologists are just like the trash end of that." Is what my instinct is to say. And I know that it's not necessarily true. But then, as I run around on TikTok or watching other debates and seeing other channels, I watched videos from Simon Dan the other day from some flat earthers and conspiracy theorists. So there's a conspiracy theorist who doesn't think that orangutans are real, thinks they're all just people in a suit. That was a video he posted recently. And I get it. That's one person. And I know enough about biases and watching, for example, the news. If it bleeds, it leads. If there's something shocking, they're going to put that on the news. You're not going to turn on the nightly news and have a parade of, here's some good things that happened. Here's a good thing that happened. Here's something that's relatively boring that happened. Here's something that passed, because that doesn't prompt advertising dollars the way violence and absurdity does. And the algorithms that we've trained collectively, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Google, whatever, are feeding us not only more and more of what we've already seen, but feeding us specific things that keep us in an insular group. And when we start to search outside of that, I don't know about you guys, but what I find myself doing in many cases is finding myself instantly frustrated. How can anybody be so unskeptical, so obtuse, so backward, so stupid as to believe whatever it is that this is, this particular video is propping up? And then you've got TikTok apologists and prayer videos where you can, they're not going to debate anybody, but they're just going to sit there and have a prayer session live on YouTube where you can throw in your super chats and have somebody pray for you. And it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. I remember 20 some odd years ago when I first found my way out of religion and started talking about all this stuff, talking about how it felt strange to wake up every day in a world where I had previously held the majority position and was sort of part of the normal part of society, and to wake up every day realizing that the normal position that I had was broken and wrong and flawed and immoral and false, or at least not demonstrably true, and that I would spend the rest of my life trying to find ways to explain this to the people who were still in those beliefs. And so I'm jaded. There's no other way to say it. I'm not, don't get me wrong. This isn't I'm quitting. I'll do this till I'm dead, probably. And I love doing it. But one of the things that I've tried to do here on the Hang Up is when I'm struggling with something, or when I'm thinking about something and I'm not able to get much more progress on it, I try to bring in either my friends or people who I've just met, or people with a slightly different perspective on things than I might have, in order to kind of give me some perspective on this. And I thought, since I'm sitting here as the jaded old get off my lawn counter apologist asshole, calling out, apologists as trash, and is it getting worse? Are online apologists actually getting worse across the board? I mean, it's not that there's been a new argument that at least not that I'm aware of. We're arguing about what words mean, how they're being used, whether or not there's a middle ground between theism and atheism, what evidence should count as evidence. There's been nothing new presented. And so some days I feel like I'm not just jaded, I'm justified and jaded. I'm justified in being jaded. And I have to check myself, because you're almost at the point where you're committing the fallacy, where because someone has presented a fallacious argument, you then conclude that it's therefore false and unworthy of consideration, the proposition that we're evaluating. That would be a mistake. And it would be a mistake for any or all of us to say, yeah, I've been at this for 20 years and nobody's presented even anything close to a valid and sound argument for the existence of any God, and no God seems to want to show up. So you add together divine hiddenness and the absurdity and mockable positions presented by apologists. Let's just be done with it. Let's just go ahead and conclude there is no God. We've demonstrated as much as anybody could. It's a waste of time to do anything else. And let's just, get on with our days. And as tempting as that is, I realize that that is not where I want to be. And so today, I'd like everybody to welcome my guest, Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels, who, while he has, he's not like 12, he has been doing this for a little bit, but I hope, isn't quite as jaded as I am, and can fill us in on, is the skeptic movement failing? Are we just running up against conspiracy theorists? Is the glut of misinformation out there just so rampant? Have they put everybody they can find into a lab coat in order to play it up and act as if there's something? Or do you, from your perspective, feel like we're still making progress and it's just difficult?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And hi, everyone, by the way. Thanks, Matt, for having me on. Ecstatic to be here. It's kind of a give and take. I mean, sure, there hasn't been any new Christian apologist or apologetics or really arguments, anything new for quite a long time. I've noticed traditionally it's kind of become, hey, how do we repackage old arguments into something that appears new? How can we skew this word's definition to make it work slightly better? All kinds of kind of little tricks and sleight of hand. And we have, a new generation constantly of skeptics and atheist activists kind of rising up to address it. My channel is only 6 months old. And personally, if I felt like it was hopeless or we were losing ground, even if we were losing ground, but if I felt it was hopeless, I don't think I would have started this channel. I kind of liken it to an arms race. You have the apologetic side trying to tweak and refine and find any advantage or any advancement they can get, and then on the other side we have the skeptics and the atheists just slapping those down, finding fallacies and bad arguments. And I think overall, it's slowly moving in the right direction, but it's a back and forth. I remember 10, 12 years ago when I remember distinctly when I was in college, I was in the college parking lot and I was thinking about the state of politics in the United States. And I was like, man, the Republicans really are on the way out. Like, boomers are going to be literally dying of old age soon. Obama was in office for 8 years. And I was like, this is great. And then, all of a sudden it feels like we slid back, 30 years in the state of our politics. I'm confident that we are going to gain that ground back and go even further than it was before. It can be very discouraging to have to see losses or see some backsliding in certain areas. I think one of the maybe most crushing ones we saw was the dissolution of Roe versus Wade in the Supreme Court and the events and kind of shenanigans that led up to that becoming possible. It's really disheartening to see those types of things. But I also am heartened by the fact that we have a growing skeptic community. More and more people, religion in the United States, Christianity is on the decline. We see the non-religious, the secular, even just atheists. Like atheism, being an atheist is no longer a kind of a social suicide to announce yourself as, at least in certain areas of the United States. It can be very difficult to keep a chin up about it. But like I said, I don't think I would have started my channel if I thought it was hopeless. It's a hard fight. I don't think any fight worth having is going to be easy. So on that front, everything we've done. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
No, on that front, for those who aren't familiar with this, why don't you give everybody the introduction that I can't give you, which is give them some insight into your background. How did you get from, where you were to where you are, valuing skepticism enough to create a channel focused on that mission?
Sure. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Eric. I have a new channel. It's about 6 months old called Skeptics and Scoundrels. It's kind of a channel where I am addressing Christian apologists, doing response to videos, and kind of just going where I feel like going with it. There's no real clear focus or direction of the channel that I have quite set in stone yet. My background is I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness. I was born and raised in that religion or cult. I broke out when I was 27, and no small thanks to you, Matt, and the other folks on the old school OG Atheist Experience folks, as well as some other YouTube channels. I distinctly remember when I first watched my first episode of, I think it was you, and I think it was either Jeff D or Tracy Harris, being raised as a Jehovah's Witness and constantly having ingrained into me, do not watch or consume anything hostile against religion, especially hostile against the witnesses. Having that indoctrination my entire life, I remember my hands watching that episode. I remember my hands were trembling because I was doing something that was so taboo my entire life. But once I got past that initial fear and apprehension, I started just devouring any of that content I could find, started doing my own research, learning for the first time about logical fallacies, epistemology, logic. Decided to go back to college, took more classes on that. And that was 14 years ago when that all started. And now I got to a point where I was like, hey, I just turned 40. I want to do something with my midlife crisis energy. So I decided to start a YouTube channel. I had some mild success. I had a nice video that kind of exploded and got over 100,000 views. And that kind of propelled my subscribership up fairly quickly. It's cooled down since then. So now I got to actually do some actual real work to get real growth out of the channel, which I'm planning to do.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my background. And now I'm just kind of getting myself out there. I'm normally an introverted, reserved person, but for the sake of personal growth and learning more and challenging myself, I said, hey, I'm going to start this YouTube channel. I'm going to get my face out there. I'm going to make mistakes in front of other people. I'll probably make a mistake or two on the show tonight. Going to have to learn to deal with those types of things and use that to grow and become better at what I try to do. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Well, I tell you, we'll get some more opportunities to, because I didn't take time to see what you weren't comfortable talking about. So I don't necessarily want to how did your family respond and all this other stuff. And you might have told your story and your deconversion story. What I want to do is we actually have theistic callers on the line. And I've always said that we're going to prioritize theistic callers here. And that's what I'm looking for. And the first one, I just have to take it right now. Because Joe in California is on the line. Pronouns are he, him. Joe's a theist who says, that I'm ridiculous for thinking believers are irrational. A slight correction. It's arguments that are, well, believers can be irrational, but it's arguments that I generally think are irrational or not. And the exact quote I'm told is that I'm a dumbass. So, Joe, welcome to the Hang Up on a Wednesday night here on the line with Matt and Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels. How are you?
Yeah, how are you? I'm good. Good. I just want to call in and say,
let's make the case for why I'm a dumbass.
Because I think that what you're saying and you belittling people and what they believe in, like, I just think that's a little bit over the top. So why it's my opinion to call you a dumbass if you're going to call people the names you call them. So I'm just here to say, hey, look, man, you cuss them, you tell them to shut up, you block them on your phone, and you start talking over them, and then you act like you won, something that you didn't even win. You didn't do nothing. All you did is hung up on somebody.
Do you realize? Okay, Joe, do you realize that cussing isn't the same as calling someone a name?
Oh, whatever, man. To me, you're actually putting people down by believing that, because we believe in God. That is, it's like stupid or something like that. I don't understand your logigic against.
No.
Like,
so
the majority of people in the world believe in God.
Joe, are you going to listen to me, or are you just going to keep talking?
Okay. No, go ahead.
Yeah. So I've repeatedly said, you do realize that I was a believer for decades and was going to be a preacher. You're aware of that?
Yeah, I'm aware of that. And do you realize that I was an atheist for years? I was even a worse atheist than you. I was a better atheist.
Okay.
Joe, trying to prove myself every single day on the show.
Joe, take some decaf, Joe.
All right, go ahead, man.
Why are you running off? Why are you running off in 20 directions? I'm just asking a couple questions to get started here. So, are you also aware that I have repeatedly said my IQ did not go up when I stopped believing, that believers aren't stupid? Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not aware. I've just seen a couple of your shows.
Oh, okay.
I'm not like a big time like on your channel or something. I've seen a couple of shows.
So you've seen a couple things and it got under your skin. Cool. You used to be an atheist, you say, right?
Yeah, I was atheist for a long time, for most of my life.
Why?
Because just a lot of things went wrong in my life. Everything was going wrong, like just getting my ass kicked through life, bro. And
were you ever a skeptic?
And I don't think I was. I don't even know if you can call me an atheist. What I call myself is somebody who, the more I heard people like my mom or somebody calling me and want to pray about my life, the more that it angered me and it pissed me off to the point where I started cussing around when she called me to pray. Like, I was like that. Like, so I don't know if it was like total disbelief.
Why are you suggesting?
I hated whatever it was.
Joe?
What is it? Yeah.
Why are you suggesting that you were an atheist like me when you weren't? And you acknowledge that you weren't a skeptic. You said you weren't even sure you could call yourself an atheist. Well, you were basically mad, and you would cuss at your mom when she'd call you praying and stuff. I never did that. I was a sincere believer. Joe, I'm still talking. Joe,
go ahead.
I'm still talking.
I'm listening.
You're not. You're interrupting. But if you were listening, there would be quiet. I don't remember seeing your name quite so often when I wrote the script for this.
Got it.
The position here is that I used to be a sincere believer who wanted to be a preacher and found out that I didn't have good reasons for my belief. That's it. And all I've done for the last 20 years is try to get people to tell me what they believe and why, to see if what they believe is justified. Now, clearly I've irritated you in some way. And that's just fine. That's fine. I can be a dick. I'd be the first one to say that. However, all I care about is whether or not I'm right or you're right on whether or not there's a rational way, a justified rational view on God belief. So I'll give you another period here where I'm not going to say anything, and we can get Eric in, where you can either focus on what your beef is with me, or you can present a good reason for people to believe in God, or both.
Well, first of all, I was an atheist because I didn't believe the things people were telling me about God, which only escalated to where I was at a point where, okay, I'll start believing this. So I started believing it. But all I'm saying is, like, you're telling people that call you in that the world that we live in and the things around us and everything that we see and hear and all the people and all life is just by some kind of natural selection or some kind of, it's just you're trying to validate something that's so stupid that it goes against science. You can't have something. Yeah, you can't have something that you can't start something without somebody presenting it. Or you can't have a beginning. It has to be a beginning to all this. You can't just make something up out your head.
Joe, I want to let you finish, but
so you're being irrational by thinking that
Joe,
we're all here for some kind of. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to mute you. I don't know if it's a problem with the phone or a problem with your head. I want to let you finish making your case, but when you start saying that I'm out here telling people that it's all natural, that's a lie. My position is that the natural is the only part of reality that I can verify, and I'm not telling anybody that they are in fact wrong about whether or not there's a God or a supernatural entity or any of those things. I'm saying that they're wrong in their positions or their arguments for that they do not have a justified argument, a reasonable argument. They do not have a sound argument for that. I'm not saying they're wrong about whether or not there's a God. I'm saying that they have not presented a case that warrants belief. That's what it is. So instead of putting words in my mouth, I promise you, Joe, this will go a lot better if you stop pretending that you know anything at all about me, because you've already demonstrated that you don't, and you haven't watched enough to reach a conclusion. You've just seen highlight clips. So instead of putting words into my mouth, get some words out of my mouth by actually engaging in a conversation with myself and Eric on this God belief. Can we do that or not?
Yeah, let's do that. So what's up?
Cool.
Okay. Well, you heard me. Okay, all I'm saying is that I believe that there's plenty of evidence to believe that there's God. I mean, you can't deny the fact that we're living, breathing. There's life all around us, all sorts of different kind of life, the vegetation, the trees, all that. It's just our whole environment. You can't say that it's some kind of natural thing that did this. You can't.
Why not?
I mean, you'd be an idiot to think that, because how? You're the one that has to answer that question. I can't give you the answer to that because I don't know the answer.
No.
If somebody had the answer to that, if somebody had the answer to that, you would do away with Christianity. You do away with God forever if you had the answer to that, and you don't, and you never will.
Joe,
you never will. That's just a fact of life.
Joe.
And until you do that,
now I'm muting you, because Joe, it's very clear you have zero interest in a conversation. I'm desperately trying. I would like to get my guest involved. I would like to have. As a matter of fact, when I unmute you in a moment, I'm just going to let Eric talk to you, because clearly you've got some issue with me. But you say you'd just be an idiot to believe that that's an argumentum ad hominem. It is a name-calling thing. It is a suggestion that only an idiot would believe this sort of thing. You haven't presented an argument. You haven't presented any evidence. You can't just say, look at all the various life and the whole environment. That can't happen by natural causes. How did you prove? You just asserted that it cannot happen by natural causes. How did you prove that? Because I don't know how anybody has ever demonstrated that. And if you are the one who is asserting that there must be something more than the natural world, you and I agree that the natural world exists. You're asserting that there must be something more, and that is a case that you have to make. And I'm happy to let you try to make it. But if you're just going to say, you can't do that, you'll never do that, that's idiotic. You are in over your head if that's what you're going to do. I'm going to give you a chance to talk to Eric about this, and we'll see how it goes. And if you can genuinely have a conversation about this, presenting arguments and evidence, then you're welcome to stay. And if you're not, then you can think whatever you want about me, but I have other callers who are waiting, who would probably do a better job, rather than just name calling and pretending that everything about science is unreasonable. So would you like to try again?
Did you just have me muted this whole time?
Yes.
Yeah, you read out the stuff that you just, you can't handle, and you put me back on to make you look like a dumbass. That's all you're doing. Okay. You do that all the time to your call.
Okay. So here's the thing. You're muted again. So you are muted right now. I'm going to unmute you. And when I do, I'm going to let Eric talk to you. Okay. And when you're unmuted and you're talking to Eric, just pretend like none of this happened, and you might save yourself. Because when you pretend that I muted you because I'm scared of some truth that you're doing, You look like the dumbass, not me. And we're not going to get anywhere if we keep doing that. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to take you off mute. You and Eric can talk about this God thing. And trust me, you definitely do not want me to jump back in. And trust me, pretending like I'm scared of you, when of the two of us, I'm the one that does this all the time against the top apologists on the planet. I'm bending over backwards. I'm getting ribbed in chat for giving you too much leeway when all you've done is spew name calling things and make assertions about how stupid it would be to not believe in God. I'm going to unmute you and let you try with Eric. Forget that I'm even here. You really don't want me involved. Joe, welcome back.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Joe, can I ask you a question or two to kind of clarify a couple
Okay,
things?
yeah, what's up?
I mean, we don't know each other.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know each other. I don't think
No,
you probably watch any of my stuff. So hopefully we'll start with a clean slate. So you mentioned when you were younger, you called yourself an atheist, but you made an interesting comment about that in that you didn't talk about your own belief. You said you were upset at what other people were telling you to believe. Can you clarify that?
Yeah,
I guess let me make that succinct. Did you at any point in your life tell yourself, I don't believe a God exists? Like genuinely tell yourself that? Or have you always had a belief in a God, but it was maybe ill-defined? You always had a belief in a God, you said. Is that it?
Well, my point was is that I actually was getting angry at something that I didn't believe existed, which I thought was stupid. Because how can you hate something that you don't even believe in? So I don't know that but it never occurred to me to believe in it. Like I wasn't going around saying, hey, you know what, God doesn't exist. I didn't open a platform for everybody to call in and try to verify validate my beliefs, because that's what I feel like atheists do. They're trying to validate their disbelief so they can validate themselves. But they're not. But if you're just not going to believe in it, just don't believe in it. You don't have to prove it to me or to anybody else. You just got to prove it to yourself.
Well, you see, for any other beliefs, that would probably be. Hold on, Joe. Joe, can I respond?
It was
please?
different.
Let me respond, please. Joe. Joe, can I respond? Okay.
Yeah,
for many of the beliefs, that would probably be. For many of the beliefs, that would probably be good advice. Okay. I don't care who believes in unicorns. I don't care who believes in Santa. Okay. I'm not out here telling people not to believe in those things. But there's a lot of God thing,
Christianity that I disagree with. But I believe there's a God, and I believe that Jesus is the one.
But with the God issue, we have millions of people, especially in the United States, trying to legislate these archaic, draconian, cruel God beliefs and the legislation in that into our laws. So we have a big issue with
archaic
that.
About give me an example of what you're talking about. Like what's archaic that the politicians are trying to what's bothering you?
The rejection of women's rights and bodily autonomy. That's a big one.
That doesn't come from
we had Roe v. Wade. We had Roe v. Wade repealed just a year ago?
What's that?
We had Roe v. Wade.
I like most Christians don't even. I know what it is, but I don't want to.
I don't care about most Christians. I care about the ones making problems in legislation. I don't care about most Christians. I care about the ones actively legislating.
I agree with that, but I don't.
Okay.
I agree with what you're saying. Right, I don't agree that.
So right there.
What's that?
You said you agreed with that. So we agree on this core. We agree on this issue.
Okay.
Joe, please let me get a word in.
Go ahead.
We both agree on this. Okay. I am so concerned by this, and I see the real damage and harm it causes, that it motivates me to talk out against these Christian beliefs, these archaic beliefs. If Christians were to just take their beliefs and privately practice them and not force them into law, I would be fine with that. I wouldn't have to do any of this. I'm sure Matt would have regained the 20 years he just spent fighting this if we didn't have that issue. Christian beliefs,
I don't think that Christians,
many are benign, but some of them are very toxic and harmful, and we're fighting against that.
Okay, but I don't think that every Christian is pro-choice or anti-abortion.
I don't care about every Christian. I care about the ones causing problems.
I would just say there's probably plenty of non-believers who are anti-abortion. You can't just blame that on one God.
But they're bringing scripture into the equation. They're bringing other arguments into the equation.
I mean, I don't know what scripture they can bring into the equation.
That could be a whole other fight that we could have. But I'm not interested in doing that fight. I'm interested in doing this one. I'm only one person.
Well, you can't disbelieve in God just because of that. just because what some believers
I
are
don't
taking
believe
the
in a
Bible.
God because I don't see sufficient evidence for it. I don't believe in a God because I don't have sufficient evidence to warrant that belief. Plain and simple. I know you may think I ignore it.
I know.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
know. But you, like I said, you might think that, but I also think the same about you. I don't see how you even. I think you have to be delusional to believe that this all just happened out of nothing. Like you would almost have to.
Do you think I'm
turn your brain
genuine?
off.
Do you think I'm genuine when I say I don't see the evidence?
And violate
Joe,
science rules by saying you can have all this without it being started by something. It's just ridiculous.
Let's put all that aside for just a moment.
So you're saying that you're saying the same thing that I'm saying. I'm just saying that I'm throwing it back to you.
Joe,
I'm throwing it back to you. That's all I'm doing.
Joe, I'm trying to ask you a question.
What?
Okay. When I say I don't believe in a God because I don't see enough evidence for it, do you think I'm being genuine with that statement?
No, I
all the other stuff set aside. Okay, so you think I'm either fooling myself or outward lying to you, basically?
I think you're fooling yourself and you're trying to convince yourself. That's what I think. I think you're actually trying to convince yourself because most people that don't believe in God just don't give a damn. So, I mean, I when I was an atheist, I didn't go around saying I had to prove something to somebody else. And I don't care,
Joe, I think
who you act like Christians are bigots and all that stuff, but you know what? I don't care. Like if there's people that want to have sex with other men or whatever, it doesn't. Like I'm not one of those people that go, oh, you know, like they make Christians out to be like these bigotry people. I'm not like
we're
that.
throwing a lot of stuff.
That's right.
We're throwing a lot of stuff onto the table here. Let's focus a little bit here. Okay. Let's focus a little bit on
kind of building.
Joe.
What's that?
Joe, come on. We're having a conversation here, back and forth. Okay. Joe,
go ahead.
Back and forth. Okay.
You're getting really close to me having to jump in, Joe. Let Eric talk. Be honest in answering questions, or I'm going to shut you up.
All right. First of all, Joe, you are fooling yourself if you can think you can look at somebody else and know what they're thinking better than they do. You are seriously fooling yourself. If I came up to you and you told me that you like chocolate ice cream and I told you no, you like vanilla ice cream. I know it because it's silly to like chocolate ice cream.
I'm not doing that. I've seen you guys do it on your show.
That's exactly what you
guys
are
did. Doing that, Joe. You are doing that when you shut the fuck up. I'm muting you. What Eric's trying to tell you very politely is that that's exactly what you do when you tell us that we aren't sincere in our disbelief. When you pretend that you know our mind better than we do. It's you projecting because you were a shitty atheist for shitty reasons and you assume that the other atheists who are out here are in the same boat, but we're not. We're actually involved in conversations and arguments where we want someone to present evidence. And when you asked Eric for what he's objecting to, he told you at least one example. And then you, instead of arguing and staying on that point, tried to jump to a different point to raise a different point and turn it back and do, well, this is what you guys do. And this is what are either of us doing any of that right now? I think we're just trying to have a conversation with you. Do you want to have that conversation or do you want to be done?
I'm willing to have a conversation. But all I was
and grow the fuck up.
I'm throwing it back to you. It's hypocrisy.
And stay on topic or I will nuke you.
You're throwing it back and forth. All right.
Continue.
Okay, so Joe,
hello.
Let's shelf that for right now.
You said.
Okay, let's shelf that
I'm
for
sorry
right now. Joe,
no, stop. I'm going to do this one more time. Joe, I'm sorry that you are a terrified, scared little person who is absolutely petrified at the notion that there are people out there who know more than you, or who might have a better understanding of something than you, or who might sincerely disbelieve the things you believe, which is why you just sit there and mock it. You are becoming a cartoon. I don't think you know the first thing about Christianity when you start talking about what Christians do and don't support. I don't think you know the Bible better than either one of us sitting here. I don't think you understand Christianity better than either of us here. We're sitting here trying to actually have a conversation with you, and you sound like you're about to break down. You sound like you're about to cry. You got a nervous laughter. You got to mock us for this. All Eric is doing is asking you questions. Now, you're either going to engage respectfully with him, or I will move on to another caller, because I think it's disrespectful to the other callers to let you continue to sit here and keep occupying time when you provide nothing but name calling and assertions. So let's try this again. Welcome back to the show, Joe. You're on with Eric.
Eric, where were we?
Hi, Joe.
Before I got
Give me.
censored.
So, okay, I'm going to take you for your word that you were an atheist at one point in your life, and that you're not anymore. You're now a theist, and you believe that there is a God, and you believe that we are irrational in our rejection of that. Okay, just give me your best piece of evidence that you can point to for the existence of your God, whether that be the Christian God or a deist God in general. Give me something.
I just did. Everything around us.
Okay.
That's proof enough. What else do you want? You can't disprove
Everything around us.
You can't. Everything around us. Everything.
I'm not disproving
everything
life.
around. I'll take you back to what is that? Romans 1, where it says, "There's no excuse for man to not believe because of things around us."
Right.
I don't remember the exact scripture, but there's just. I mean, you can't deny that. And if you do deny it, then you're just denying the truth. Because all you're doing is if you can't explain it away.
Let's say hypothetically. Let's say hypothetically.
If you can't explain it away, no. Let me say, if you can't explain it away, then you can't kick God out of the world. You just can't do it, and you never will do it.
No, sir.
All right.
No,
science,
sir. No, you won't.
No, sir.
You understand? You understand, Joe, what the most
you.
general? Yeah, Joe. Do you understand what the most general definition of atheism is, or atheist? It is without belief in a God. It is not belief. There's all right. It's without the belief in a God. Joe, hold on. Let me respond. Please let me respond. Okay. So you basically said, look all around us. Here's Romans 1:1, and the Bible says this. Right. And apparently, everything around us should be enough evidence for us to believe in a divine being. Okay. If, let's say, hypothetically, for a moment, you manage to convince me with that argument, I could then jump to literally any God I want because it tells me nothing about that God. I can believe in Loki. I can believe in a fairy that lives in my garden. It is useless to me to determine whether this God actually exists.
Well, okay. Am I off the speaker, or is it safe for you to let me talk now?
I hear you. Go ahead.
Like when you're saying
whether you listen.
Like, okay, hello. All I'm saying is, okay, you're saying anybody can be a god, right? You're saying that all these make-believe gods.
That's not at all what I just said.
No.
Yeah, you did.
Nope,
You said
that's not what I said.
No, he didn't. I'm going to mute you again, Joe, and I want you to listen to me very carefully. The amount of time that you have left on this show depends on how carefully you listen to me, because you didn't listen carefully to Eric. You have this case that you were trying to make, which is the evidence for God is everything around us, and you can't throw God out until you can provide some other explanation. You are wrong. You have shifted the burden of proof. The actual position is that we have a universe and we need an explanation for it. But you don't get to propose and say that God gets to be the explanation until you provide actual evidence for it. It is not up to the rest of the world to disprove your God or somebody else's God. Your God or somebody else's God does not stand as the de facto correct asserted answer until somebody proves it false, because your God may be unfalsifiable. We are not sitting here saying we've thrown God out. We are saying you have not given a reason to include God as a potential explanation for this. That's it. That's what skepticism is all about. It is not saying there is no God. That's not, atheism isn't even necessarily there is no God. It is, I'm not convinced there's a God. And so if we have a universe and everything around us, which by the way includes cancer, includes poop, includes rocks, includes stars, all of those things, beautiful and ugly, life-giving and life-ending. There is no argument. You have not presented an argument. You just said, look at all the things around us, and that we can't throw God out without showing we have an explanation for it. That is a shifting of the burden of proof. It is a misrepresentation of the facts. We have a universe that we need to explain, and I have my explanations, and you are adding to them. You are adding a God, and all we are doing, and I'm going to unmute you, is saying, what justification do you have to add a God as a proposed explanation for the universe?
What you're asking me, what explanation I have? I gave you one. The only reason why you're saying
done.
What you're
You
saying
don't
is
listen.
because
waving at everything around you, waving at everything around you, and then pointing at a scripture is not an explanation. It is not evidence of it. It is just a claim. And the point I was trying to get to, which Matt, you did bring it up, was that the universe is a series of causes and effects. And whether that goes back to a prime cause or not, don't know. But at some point, something has to just be in order to have caused this. And Joe, like many other people, they will go a step further. I go back to energy. Energy may be eternal. Time and space, not, but energy itself, maybe. I stop there because that's all I need to have to explain everything else. But Joe wants to go a step further. And by doing that, he's not only violating Occam's razor by dumping something unknown, an unknown cause on top of another unknown cause, he is trying to fashion this universe into something that it is potentially not. He's trying to fashion this universe into something that's designed or given to us. And he's adding all this extra dressing around something that we don't need to, because we already have an explanation for most of what we have, and that's the Big Bang and the energy that was contained within inside of it. So Joe, I guess a quick piece of advice. You are a little emotionally charged when you talk, and that's fine. You're on a live call-in show. There's 1,400 people here right now. I'm excited because this is my first time doing something like this. But when you go back, if you go back and rewatch that, look at the energy you were pumping into the conversation, and imagine if me and Matt were pumping that right back at you, and imagine the flustercluck that would have been had we done that. Try to distill down your argument. Let's talk about one or two things at a time, calmly, back and forth, have a discussion. Because I want to talk to you more. If you want to contact me on my channel or call Matt back here one day, I'm sure they'll welcome you back. But yeah, try to remove the need to be right. Try to remove the need to have this be true, and let's just talk about it objectively and dispassionately. Because we aren't going to get anywhere if we are getting really emotionally charged about it.
Well, what we'd love is, I don't expect you to show up with a college level constructed argument with cross-reference premises and everything else. I'm fine with the colloquial. I'm even fine with you saying everything around us is proof of God, only because I've been doing this for decades and I know what you mean. What you meant, Joe, is that when you look at the world, it seems absurd that the complexities and the beauty and the interactions that you see in the world, it seems absurd to you that this could have happened by natural sources, that this could have a natural explanation. So there must be something supernatural. But your personal incredulity, your personal befuddlement at the world is not an argument, and it's not evidence. And what it shows is that you, like most of us, are very uncomfortable with saying, I don't know. When somebody comes to me and says, why is there something rather than nothing? My answer is, I don't know. Maybe it's impossible. There couldn't be a nothing. As soon as there is a nothing, it's now something. You've given it property, a property of existence. It's something. And I understand, despite what you think of me, maybe I am a dumbass, but I understand what it's like to go, gosh, this is baffling how special the world seems and feels to us. It has to be the creation of God. I get that. I share that idea. The difference is that I learned what logical fallacies are. I learned how I don't get to shift the burden of proof. I don't get to pretend that my personal befuddlement with the world that makes me want to grab onto a God so that I have an answer because I'm incredibly terrified of acknowledging that I don't know, that alone does not warrant me saying, now you guys have to prove me wrong. You have to show. But you went way over the top for stuff that I've dropped you for way earlier by saying, science can't solve this. Science won't solve this. You'll never have an explanation. You act like you know everything, and that we're just confused little creatures here who can't see the obvious truth in front of them. And I'll tell you, that may be comforting for you, but I don't think you're going to like the responses that your call clips are going to get, even from Christian apologists, because you did not present anything other than it's stupid not to believe in God, and everything I see confirms that God exists, and you guys are just mean to theists. You sounded whiny and uninformed, and I believe that you're smarter and better than that. So take a breath, put some thoughts together, call in another time.
Yeah. My favorite part was when he told the screener you were a dumbass, and then the first thing out of his mouth was complaining about you calling people names.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I noticed that too. There's a few names being hurled out of his mouth towards Matt. And also just kind of put a period on the end of that. Joe, hop on Google and look up the argument from incredulity, because that's basically what that argument that you're giving is. It's basically saying, look at everything around us. It is so amazing. I can't think of a natural explanation for it. Therefore, the explanation is not natural. And it's a logical fallacy. It's not a sound way to reach a valid conclusion. And I recommend looking that up. And honestly, maybe Joe's never heard of a logical fallacy, or he's never looked those up. I certainly didn't. I first learned of logical fallacies from YouTube after I deconverted. I was like, what are fallacies? And after I learned a lot of them, it was amazing looking back at what I used to teach, how I used to teach, going door to door as a Jehovah's Witness, how littered with logical and informal logical fallacies that my presentations were. Quite embarrassing looking back on it now when I think about it, but it could be that Joe's never heard of those things. Go through those, Joe, and apply them to your conclusions or your thought process, and see maybe you might have some problems in there you don't realize.
Yeah. Sorry, I was answering or directing something to Jimmy. We have another theist caller, and I'm keeping this going. I will do nothing but take theist callers nonstop as long as they call in, and I'll run late and long and all that other stuff. But we're going to do what we say we're going to do around here, which is Rick in Nevada, pronouns are he, him, is a theist who wants to explain to us how God chooses us and we don't choose God. So, Rick, you're on with Eric and Matt. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, so that's a fact that's in the Bible, in Deuteronomy, that God does choose us.
It's weird that you say it's a fact that's in the Bible. Are there things in the Bible that aren't true?
No. It's all true.
How do you know that? How do you know?
Same way you believe that it's not, I guess. You know?
Well, no, I mean you just said you know it's all true. And you can't do that for the same reason that I believe it's not. I'm saying that there are true things in the Bible, and there are things that I'm not convinced are true. Like, I don't think a star stood still in the sky and led wise men to the infant in a manger. I don't think that ever happened.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there was a worldwide flood killing literally everyone.
And
I don't think that zombies. I don't think that zombies rose up and marched on Jerusalem after the crucifixion when the temple veil was torn. I don't think that happened either. How do you know those things happened?
Because I have faith in God. I know that God's not a liar. I know the devil's a liar.
Okay, but, so you have faith in God.
I just asked you, how do you know?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, you got it. So Matt just asked you, how do you know? Matt just asked you, how do you know that the Bible is true and that these events occurred? But then you immediately jump to, I know because I know God. Like, how does that explain any of that to us? That's just another claim.
I have a relationship with God. I mean, through prayer and meditation, I have a relationship with God, like all Christian believers.
And is this? And how is this supposed to convince us?
How is that going to convince you?
How is your personal experience and your personal claims going to convince us?
Well, it's you can't really convince somebody. It's having the faith that pleases God. That's what it's really all about, is pleasing God. What?
Okay.
That's why we're here.
So if I had, Rick, Rick, if I had you in front of me and I had a Muslim in front of me, and you both tell me I have a holy book, everything it says is true. I know it's true because I know God is real, and I have faith, and He chose me. How do I choose between you or the Muslim?
How do you choose between the two?
Yeah, I have you and a Muslim in front of me telling me the exact same things, word for word. How do I choose?
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, there's a lot of Muslims that are Christians, and maybe a lot of Christians that become Muslim. But
maybe technically in that they believe Christ existed, but not they don't worship Christ. So depends on your definition of Christianity.
Okay, let me finish. It's how God makes Himself real to each person individually. He chooses who He wants to reveal Himself to.
Okay, the Muslim tells me the same exact thing. How do I differentiate? Because you both can't be right. You both have conflicting religions. You both can't be right, but you both can't be wrong. All right. So with you two people in front of me, how do I choose? Guide me. Tell me. I want to believe. Tell me. How do I choose?
Oh, I would say open the Bible and start reading. And
do you think we haven't read the Bible?
Huh? And start in Matthew, where Jesus is being, talking to the apostles.
Okay.
Hello?
The Muslims going to open their holy book. The Muslims going to open their holy book, point to a scripture, and say such and such did such and such, and that's why I should believe. How do I differentiate these two? It's a mirror match. You got to do something they can't.
I'm explaining to you. God will make Himself real to each person individually. He makes Himself real to me. He makes Himself real to Matt. He makes Himself real to you if He chooses to. Yes, He does.
He doesn't, though. So first of all, do you think I'm asking you a question,
wasn't he?
Rick, I'm asking you a question. Would you please listen?
Okay.
Do you think that I haven't read the Bible?
I believe you have.
Do you think that which of the two of us do you think knows the Bible better?
That I don't know.
I don't know either. And that's a great answer. But your answer to how to verify this was to say read the Bible. Not only have I read it, I've taught it, I've preached against it, and I've studied it in great detail. For example, you want to start with Matthew, where Jesus is talking to the disciples, but do you realize that whoever wrote Matthew, which we don't know who that was, evidently cribbed the book of Mark and then added it in a bunch of Jewish prophecies, including things that didn't even exist in the Old Testament. He just made stuff up. Now, what is it about Matthew that made you want to start there?
There's nothing in the Bible that's made up, period.
Are bats birds?
Everything are fact. There's nothing false in the Bible.
Okay, Rick, what I swear,
I believe that.
Rick, listen, I'm happy for you to, no, you're not. I'm happy for you to make your case for things. But if all you're going to do is pop up unfounded assertions that we can't verify, you say there's nothing false or there's nothing erroneous in the Bible. And when we say, how do you know that? It's, well, because God has revealed it to you. Well, He hasn't revealed it to anybody else. And what has happened is people have launched a bunch of objections to what's in there. For example, with regard to the biblical morality of whether or not women should be equal to men, about whether or not you should be allowed to own slaves. Those things are problematic and objectionable. But the order of events in creation don't match up with the order of events that we know happened from scientific exploration. So the order of events in Genesis, do you think that Genesis 1 and Genesis 1 and 2, do you think that literally happened, that God actually formed Adam out of dirt, created a garden, put Adam in there, had Adam go through all of the animals to try to find a partner. And when Adam failed to find a partner amongst the other animals, God then put him to sleep, removed a rib, and created a woman. Do you think that that story is literally true?
Yes.
You're wrong.
100%.
Yeah.
You are 100%
Rick,
wrong.
Are you aware? Rick, are you aware of the science? The sciences. Rick, are you aware of the sciences of genetics and archaeology, and all of that, and how it flies in the face and contradicts utterly Genesis? Like, are you aware that science at least contradicts what Genesis claims?
Well, I know there's a lot of things that try to contradict the Bible. Yeah, I know.
Right. Okay. But just take genetics for instance. Okay, we have hard evidence that shows that we are related to all other animals. That we have a vast line of descendants going back all the way to what we call mitochondrial Eve and our genetic Adam, which are not what you're thinking of Adam and Eve. They're two different people who live hundreds of thousands of years apart. All right. We have scientific evidence that shows all this. Let me ask you, how do you reconcile that with your literal interpretation of Genesis? Because they both can't be right.
Whoever gave that information. Exactly.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you.
You're breaking up.
Rick, your mic. Rick, your mic. Rick, Jesus fucking Christ. I'm muting you. Rick, your mic broke up. We could not hear what your answer was. So I'm going to unmute you, and we'd like for you to answer Eric's question again, which is, there's a conflict between with what science says and what the Bible says. How do you reconcile that? That's what we want to know.
Okay. I don't believe in science. I believe in science. The Bible is true.
Do you understand, Rick? Do you understand? Do you understand the role science played in giving us the ability to live stream together? Matt's in Texas. I'm in Washington. You're in Nevada. We're talking now at the speed of light to each other in front of an audience. Do you understand what science has done to get us to this point, and you don't believe in it?
Well, I'm not saying I don't believe in it. I'm saying that they're wrong.
You just literally say you don't believe in science. Okay, so scientists are not right all the time. How have you determined that the vast study of genetics is wrong?
I'm not saying it's wrong either, but there's certain.
But it conflicts with Genesis. Okay, but genetics conflicts with Genesis. Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. There's a delay. Genesis conflicts. I'm sorry, science conflicts with Genesis. Both cannot be right. So either one is right or both are wrong. You're saying science is wrong. You're rejecting genetics, which is what I gather. You were breaking up a little bit. How have you determined that the genetic evidence we have of long ancestry is false?
Well, I'm saying that they made a mistake because there's no way the Bible is wrong. What?
Okay, I'm going to pause.
No way the Bible is wrong.
I'm going to pause. Rick, I want to make sure that I'm accurately presenting what you're saying. You're saying that you're convinced that the Bible is correct. It is impossible for the Bible to be wrong. And if there is any scientific finding that contradicts the Bible or is in conflict with the Bible, that scientific finding must be wrong. Is that correct?
The scientific finding you were cutting out is what? Incorrect. Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna mute you again just so we don't try to talk over each other with a delay. So now I understand you've said that the Bible cannot possibly be wrong, and if any finding of science apparently would conflict with the Bible, that finding of science must be wrong. I'm going to ask you both the easiest and most difficult question I can think of. What evidence can you present to show that if the Bible says something and science says something in conflict, the Bible must always be correct? What evidence do you have for that?
The only evidence I have is my faith. My faith is in God.
Yeah.
Because
do you understand?
The only way, please, God.
Do you understand that you having faith is not evidence to anyone else and should not be considered reasonable to you? Do you understand that?
That's not what the Bible says.
I don't care what the Bible says. I don't care. I don't give a flying fuck what the Bible says until you prove to me that I should care what the Bible says. Why should I care what the Bible says?
You should, because it's going to save your soul.
How do you know that?
Talk to people that have gone through the veil. They've come back.
What?
Both one's gone to hell and one's gone to heaven.
There's nobody who there's not a single person. There's not a single person in the history of the world that you can introduce me to who we can confirm has been to hell.
Yes, there are.
No.
Okay.
No, Rick.
Again,
there's not
your
a person.
Opinion. Rick, do you really?
No,
do you really think
Rick,
that there are people?
Rick, it's not just opinion. How can you prove to me? How can you prove to me? Introduce me to one person who's been through hell and prove it to me.
Okay, I'll get him. I'll let you talk to him. I can tell you they died and went to hell and came.
How would you prove? Yes, have them call in, but how would you ever prove that they actually went to hell rather than they just think they went to hell?
It's their testimony of what hell is like and what happened to them.
Rick, is it possible? Rick, is it possible for someone's testimony to be wrong?
That's true. That goes both ways.
How do we tell whether or not someone's testimony is wrong?
Well, same way that your testimony could be wrong. We're all
sir. We all. No, I'm gonna mute you, and you're gonna listen very carefully, and then I'm gonna let Eric finish up this call, because I've put up with a lot of stuff, but what I see from apologists, the last caller and you, is that every time we drill down to the key point where you have nothing more to offer, you instead turn it around and pretend that we are on just as shaky ground. I have no testimony here. I'm not testifying to anything. I'm asking the question, how do you demonstrate that somebody went to hell versus that they just think they went to hell? How do you tell the difference? That's going to be crucial. And if you acknowledge there's no way to tell the difference, then you're admitting that you don't have reason to believe they went to hell either. And your brain gets in defense mode, and rather than acknowledging that painfully obvious truth, you then lash out and pretend that I'm saying something that is a matter of testimony that could also be wrong. That's not the way that's not how reason works. So I'm going to ask you this question, answer it however you want, and I'll let Eric finish this up. Two people, let's imagine. Let's imagine you introduce me to two people. Both of them claim that they've been to hell. We have to acknowledge that one or both of them could be wrong. How do we tell which, if either of them, is actually correct about going to hell?
Well, like I said, their testimony and how it changed their lives. Because I can tell you, when they died and went to hell, they were, one guy was, he had prostitutes that he sold or whatever, and he was doing things that were not pleasing to God. So he went to hell. God gave him a second chance and brought him back. And it changed his life totally. He did a reverse.
Okay.
You there?
So what if we had two people who claim they went to hell and they both came back and they give us conflicting stories on what hell is? One person says the fire's red, the other person says the fire's blue. Who do we believe?
Mm-hmm. I mean, the bottom line is, I don't think that's the important thing to look at as far as the color of
Hold
the
on,
fire.
I asked a question. Please answer it. I'm asking. I'm giving a hypothetical, very realistic hypothetical according to your worldview, apparently.
Okay. The bottom line is, the fire is going to burn you, no matter what color it is.
No. There's a direct conflict in their two claims. One person says the fire is red. The other person says the fire is blue. Who do I believe?
Okay. You can believe either one of them. I don't think that is the.
How I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's
Let you finish. Go ahead.
Important. The thing that's important is the fire burn, and it will burn you. Who cares what color it is? Okay, that's what I'm saying. Okay.
So the point I'm getting at, Rick, is I care whether what I accept to be truth is actually truth. And if you give me these claims, identical claims, and then I asked you, how do I differentiate between these two? Because I want to have an accurate assessment of what the truth actually is. And then you tell me it doesn't matter which one I believe because of some other commonality.
No, I'm not.
You're missing the point in that there's two conflicting stories here. We don't just accept or reject them based on whims.
I'm not saying that at all.
To truth.
Okay. I mean, you can.
Do you understand how faith, Rick? Do you understand how faith can lead to both? Do you understand how faith can lead to both true and false things? I can have faith in one thing and it eventually be true. I can have faith in another thing and it eventually becomes, is revealed to be false, right? Faith can lead me to true or false things. So how is faith a reliable method of discovering truth, if that's the case?
If you have faith in God, it's not going to be false. I can tell you that.
Okay, I have a Muslim in front of me telling me faith in Allah won't lead me to anything false. So now, how do I this is the same as the last caller. You're trying to present to me faith as some reliable method to determine whether these claims are true or false, and I'm just simply using those and applying them to another religion, and you can't seem to break out of that. You can't convince me that you have something above some other religion. And what this tells me, I said, I've said it probably 3 times now, you can't all be right, but you can't all be wrong. And while I'm not going to jump and say that you're all wrong because I don't know that, it at least shows that this is an unreliable way to reach the truth. You're presenting us bad methodology. Go ahead.
Well, the only way you can please God is through faith. That's in the Bible. Okay.
Yeah, I don't care what the Bible says.
Faith. That's in the Quran.
I don't want to care what the Bible says. And now at this point, Rick, I no longer care what you say because you've said your piece and that's fine. Okay. But you're telling us what you believe and you're not doing anything to justify why you believe it. You're saying you believe it because of your faith. You believe it because it's in the Bible. But when we push back on how someone could be wrong and how do you tell the difference between someone who's right and someone who's wrong, you just assert that you can't be wrong. Well, congratulations, Rick. I'm glad that you can't be wrong, but you in fact are wrong.
No, you are.
You are. You are wrong. You're wrong about rationality. You're wrong about reason. You're wrong about the nature of evidence. You're wrong about the burden of proof. You're wrong about the order of events in creation and whether or not it lines up with the finding of science. You are wrong about whether or not when science conflicts with the Bible, whether or not science is wrong. You are wrong. You are wrong. You are wrong, 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 wrong. Now, I've just made a whole bunch of assertions and not backed them up at all. How do you tell whether or not I'm actually wrong?
Because you're going against God, number one.
Yeah, goodbye. I'm going against you, Rick.
I'm not going against God. Just claimed Matt is true.
What's that?
I have faith everything you just claimed is true. I have faith that everything you just claimed is true. So, hey, we're done. Justified. Let's move on.
All right. We've got announcements. We're going to do another Theos caller in just a minute. And it's a Theos caller that... well, it's a topic that I don't think I've addressed more than maybe 3 times in 20 years. So, recoveringfromreligion.org, which is one of the places where I recommend people go, especially if they're struggling with their belief, or just if you want to talk to somebody who isn't just going to fill you with whatever a pastor is going to fill you with. But Recovering from Religion fundraiser event is live now. People can donate now. We want to clear $10,000 before the event starts on June 24th. And we've got some people that are potentially matching funds and a lot of other things going on. We will have new information about how you can participate and watch that fundraising event for the Recovering from Religion. Wow. Let me get a drink of water. Eric, say something fun.
Whoop-de-doo. Hello, folks.
I was going to say I can cover announcements if you need a minute.
Yeah, Jimmy, give us the announcements while my throat recovers.
Okay.
Yeah, so on the live tab right now, on the line, if you look, there's already a live event for June 24th. That is the Recovering from Religion event. We are going to have a ton of awesome people, and the event is ending with a reuniting of the Unholy Trinity. Matt, Aron, and Seth will be doing the final portion of the event where they will answer of a certain threshold questions that come in, but along the day, there's going to be a bunch of amazing people who are going to be a part of it as well. And then NBOSS applications are now live. If Joe wants to try again, Joe, you're welcome to apply. The NBOSS you get uninterrupted 10 minutes. Well, Matt, if you want, you can go over the NBOSS format. But anybody who wants to apply to be on NBOSS as an opponent to one of the hosts who are here, and the host would be that NBOSS. And we're going to be honest, the first several are probably going to be Matt. You can do that now at qnaline.com/NBOSS, qnaline.com/NBOSS. And the website in general is going through some development. So you'll see more resources and stuff popping up. I think you're going to see some rapid expansion this week from the 2 contact forms you can currently use. This week, we have an amazing lineup. Tomorrow, Arden and Luxander are holding down the transatlantic call-in show. On Sunday, Jimmy Snow and Matt Dillahunty will return for the Sunday show. This Monday is Skeptalk with Forrest Valkai and Gutsick Gibbon. That's Erica. Next Tuesday, Dying Out Loud will feature none other than Matt Dillahunty. And next Wednesday, Matt will have, you're on 3 of the next 5 episodes. Matt is going to be hosting Aaron Lewis on next week's episode of The Hang Up. And that's all I got.
That's wild, but I want to make sure we go back to Dying Out Loud on Tuesday, since you didn't mention Dave Warnock and it's his show.
Yes. Dave Warnock is hosting Matt Dillahunty on Dying Out Loud next week. That's true.
Yes. I'm not doing Dying Out Loud on my own, because while I am dying out loud, and we all are, to my knowledge, I'm not dying quite at the rate that Dave potentially could be if we don't find a way to cure ALS. But all right. This should be a fun call, I hope. So Wade in Canada, pronouns are he, him, used to be an atheist and is now a Zoroastrian who has evidence to support belief. So welcome, Wade. You're live on Matt. The Hang Up on the line.
Matt, Eric, nice to talk to you. Jimmy, good to hear you too. That COVID, it really hit me hard. A third best friend had committed suicide at that time. And I was born Roman Catholic. Sorry, I'll keep speaking. I just figured you might interrupt. But anyways, born Roman Catholic, but you know the problem with the Roman Catholic Church. I became really not thinking that this religion is really grounded in any truth at all. For a long time I suffered, but I broke my back years ago. I've lost both of my legs. I have paralysis, and I've had lost all the friends I had. During COVID, I fell into a deep place, and I lost someone I loved. So it was the lowest place I'd ever been in my life. And I went to go do the proper thing and go to the hospital and get help and talk to a psychiatrist. Nobody gave a crap. There were a couple of nurses there that gave a crap, and nobody gave a crap. So after I got released from there, I spent a long time by myself, searching, and I never heard of Zoroastrianism before. And I read through it and heard some of the stuff, and there was something that reached me and touched me and changed me in their ethos. And I think there's good evidence in the way it changed me, and I can give that good evidence.
Okay. I'm curious. You say there's good evidence in the way that it changed you.
Yes.
Hang on. Is it possible for people to change after believing something, even if what they believe isn't true?
Of course.
Okay. Do you have evidence that what you believe is true? Because that's the part I care about, not whether or not it changed you.
Yes. Yes.
That's
because
the evidence
through
that we want.
Zoroastrianism, they taught me
We want. Hang on. We want you to present your evidence for why. You can describe, for example, some foundational Zoroastrian belief and what evidence you have that it's true. That would be good.
Okay. So Zoroastrianism is said to be, and thought by many historians to be, the grounding and the foundation for many of our world religions, including all the Abrahamic religions and possibly Hindu and further Eastern religions. And it really comes under a simple ethos of how to live your life. It's really three.
Not looking for a history lesson. I'm looking for evidence.
Oh, I'm just not sure if there's a background that other people might know about it.
Why would I need any background at all?
Thoughts,
just tell me what you believe and why.
Yeah. Just that good thoughts, good words, and good actions, those things are evident in themselves. When you start practicing them, you change yourself, you change how you feel. When you start thinking good, when you start letting better words come out of your mouth, and when you start doing good actions. Yes.
Wade.
Yeah.
You're giving me evidence of how the belief changes you. And you've already acknowledged that the fact that your belief can change you isn't evidence that it's true. I asked for evidence that it's true. Do you have that?
That the religion's true?
Yes.
Well, religions, aren't they really just made up of what their belief systems are? And it's evident within that?
Wade, I asked you if you had evidence that Zoroastrianism is true, not that believing whatever you believe changed you. I need specific evidence that tenets of that Zoroastrianism is in fact true, that Ahura Mazda is real.
That there's goodness and a God of good? No, I can't prove that. No, I can't prove that.
Then you don't have evidence for your belief. You just really are impressed by the fact that you believed it and it made your life better.
It was the ethos. It was what was in
I don't
there that
care.
Was the helper.
Wade, I don't know how many times I can explain this. I don't care. The particular good things about the Zoroastrian ethos, can they exist in a packaged philosophy? Do the ideas stand alone, irrespective of whether or not Zoroastrianism is true?
Does having good thoughts stand alone? Like the rewards of having a good mind and a clear mind? I'm not sure how to answer it.
If I have good
sounds
thoughts,
like you're...
does it matter if I believe in Zoroastrianism if I have good thoughts?
Oh, no.
Can I get the same result?
No Zoroastrian would tell you it matters if you believe in it.
Then Zoroastrianism is incredibly stupid because it doesn't care about truth. If all Zoroastrianism
to live with good thoughts, good words, and good actions.
Wade, stop.
Those are self-evident.
Wade,
if
stop.
you did the opposite.
Wade, stop.
Stop having good thoughts?
Stop talking.
Maybe.
Listen. You found a package of beliefs that resonated with you, that are important to you.
Yes, that I think are self-evident.
But you found a package of beliefs that resonate with you, that you think are self-evident. Jesus, stop saying yes.
I'm agreeing with you.
No. Stop talking. My only concern is not whether or not you found some good ideas that benefit you, but whether or not Zoroastrianism as a religion is true. Is there a God, a creator deity?
Couldn't answer that any more than you, and that's complete honesty.
And yet Zoroastrianism includes a belief in a creator deity. So what it seems like you're doing is not advocating for Zoroastrianism, but advocating for pieces of Zoroastrianism that you like, right?
Well, of course, we all pick and choose through life, but reading
No,
through it,
no,
I couldn't
some
find
of us
anything
don't.
that conflicted
No,
with
Wade.
who I was as
No,
a person.
Wade, some of us fucking don't. Some of us
Okay,
care
Matt.
about whether or not things are true, and some of us care about the labels that we use as to whether or not we are falsely propping up bullshit gods because we like some idea. I care about the truth and precision.
I'm not asking
You don't.
to follow God.
You don't.
I'm listening to you hear some words.
You don't care about what's true.
Well, any less than anybody else, I guess.
Congratulations. Enjoy your
Hey,
I don't even know what
peace
to
of
call
mind's
it.
a good place to be, Matt, and it doesn't matter how
You
a
don't
person
have
gets
peace of
to it.
mind. You don't have peace
And
of
I
mind,
hope you
Wade.
find it
You don't
someday.
have peace of mind, Wade. You
It's
have
really
delusion.
simple.
You don't
It's
care about
not
truth.
a delusion
And
to
that's
start
this is
thinking in a better
ignorance is
way,
bliss
Matt.
category.
It's not.
This is ignorance is
It's not a
bliss
delusion
category
to
because
start
you don't give a
talking in
fuck
better ways. You
about
could do it
truth and you don't give a
yourself.
fuck about being
And
honest in discussing the truth, do you?
Sorry? I'm trying to talk about some truths about just the philosophy just behind it. And if you could address that, that'd be cool.
Hey, Wade, can I pop in here for a moment?
You may.
So it sounds like you're arguing, or at least claiming, that Zoroastrianism was effective at pulling you out of your depression, your funk, at the health problem you've had, COVID, losing your friends.
The philosophy I
And
had.
I don't. Yeah, and I'm not going to deny any of that. I am fully confident that you found hope and comfort in this. But let me ask you this: you mentioned good thoughts, good words, good deeds, and that's what kind of elevated you out of these things. If we were to take those along with if we were to take those as part of Zoroastrianism and just simply stripped out the supernatural stuff, just boiled it down to, hey, be good to each other, be good to yourself. Would that still equally be effective at pulling you out of your funk?
For goodness sake.
Yeah. But my question is, would that be equally as effective? Wait, hold on. Let me finish my thought here, Wade. Really quick. I want to finish my thought. We can strip out the supernatural out of that, all of that, and bring it down to just be good to each other, be good to yourself. Would that be as effective at pulling you out of your funk than the entire package of Zoroastrianism, or even just general for just a person?
Somewhat, it would.
Can it accomplish the same thing?
Somewhat, but it was just how the steps about going about it. That
what
the
extra
first
thing
step
does
was
Zoroastrianism
what
provide
was within
that's
my
required?
Head. Hey?
Okay, what extra thing does Zoroastrianism provide that is not provided in just the boiled down set of good feelings?
Well, nothing, and I accept that. It's just
okay. So
you can understand coming from a Catholic theist background where none of it makes sense, where the Old Testament God is evil and stuff like that, and how a good person
let's
leave
out Christianity. We're not talking about Christianity right now. Hold on. Let's stick back to what we were just talking about. In one hand, you have Zoroastrianism with all the good stuff, and in the other hand, you have just the good stuff without the supernatural. And they're both, I'm interpreting from what you just said, they're both effective at getting people out of slumps. Okay. Yeah. Why include the Zoroastrianism stuff when you don't need to?
I'm just saying that was my path, and that's what brought me to a better place than where I was before. And if I can find something better than that, I'll reach for that too. I've been watching your shows for a long time,
and Matt, anybody else take that path?
Hey?
Wait.
Why should anybody else take that path? I fully acknowledge that.
Why should anybody be convinced that the Zoroastrianism stuff is true? That's what we're trying to ask you. Because Zoroastrianism has all kinds of baggage. Like I'm all for the good stuff. I love that stuff. I try to treat myself with respect and others with respect. I'm in agreement with you on that. I'm not in agreement with the supernatural baggage attached to it.
Yeah, I am a picker and chooser, but I'm choosing.
Do you care what you pick and choose is true or false?
I see that it's right, and I see that, people that run around that are being good for the sake of goodness, that have a clear head and are thinking in a good way. It doesn't matter if there's a heaven or hell or not at the end of the day. You can live that way, and you're still better off anyway, God or no God. It's a good way to live.
Wait. Okay. Do you care whether what you pick and choose is true?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
Or do you just care how it makes you feel?
Sometimes I care about both. How I feel is important, you know. When you're depressed.
Okay, but you said yes to that you care that what you pick is true. Okay.
Yes.
How do you go about determining whether the claims of Zoroastrianism is true? Because you care whether they're true. You just said what you believe. You care what you believe is true.
It almost doesn't matter to me whether it was true or not.
Now it doesn't matter.
Just how
you're going back and forth here.
That they were that was behind
you're telling me you take this one position, but when it comes up to any resistance, then you tell me you don't care about it. That's not how Matt operates. It's not how I operate.
What I don't think any.
I mean,
is whether it's true or not, or whether there's a God or not. The philosophy stands on its own, regardless.
I am all for feel-good feelings. I practice feel-good feelings all the time, but I don't practice Zoroastrianism. It's not required.
But you know the rewards of it, and everybody does. Everybody
and I get those same rewards without Zoroastrianism. That's the point here. You're trying to attach this extra. You're trying to attach extra luggage to stuff that we all, or at least most of us, already appreciate. You're trying to sell us a religion along with things that we already accept, like being respectful and kind to others and being respectful and kind to ourselves. We don't need the religion.
Less as a religion and more as a philosophy, which I'm not sure sometimes
it doesn't matter how
the lines are blurred between
if there's supernatural claims in it.
You don't think it's a problem here and trying to figure out how you dress it up? I mean, what are you, a marketing major? Do you care so little about what's true that now all you want to do is focus on how to market it best?
I'm not running a show, and I'm not worried about marketing.
You are worried about marketing. You literally just asked if it would sell better if you dressed it up different. How are you going to pretend that you don't care about marketing when that's literally what you said?
I'm really not trying to sell anything except for my experiences and just that. Just what.
Do you realize how silly it sounds to say? Do you realize how silly it sounds to say I'm not trying to sell anything except for that good thoughts help me. Except for that thing you're trying to sell.
Help me and you, and the good deeds helps you, me, and everybody else. I'm not sure where to go, Matt.
It's because you don't care about truth, Wade.
Well, I know that's true, and it's self-evident. And if you don't think that, then that's your opinion. And I got mine, and you got yours.
Yeah. See, but you don't care about truth. You don't care about truth. When you get put in a difficult, no, stop talking now. You're muted. When you get put in a difficult position, it just goes, well, that's just your opinion. Well, congratulations. I saw The Big Lebowski. I didn't really like it that much. You can try and side quote it all you want, but it's not just a matter of opinion. The truth is not just a matter of opinion. I'm genuinely glad that you found something that is useful to you. But when you say that now you used to be an atheist and now you're a Zoroastrian, but you're a Zoroastrian who picks and chooses just like everybody else picks and chooses, when some of us don't pick and choose. Some of us evaluate claims to determine not just whether or not they make us feel good, but whether or not they are true. Some of us care about the methodology used to determine whether or not something's true. I'm sorry that you don't, Wade, but if you want to call in and advocate for Zoroastrianism, you need to say, here's what my belief is. And then if we care about that belief, or if we disagree with that belief, demonstrate why we should believe that it is true. But you're not doing that.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi.
I'm not sure where we're mixed up on how having your mind clear. How having your mind.
I don't think that you have a clear mind, and I'm not saying that to be insulting. I'm saying that because two of us here have tried for. Two of us here have tried for clarity.
Sure.
And
everybody's trying for clarity.
You have said that you care about truth and that you don't care about truth. That's not clarity, Wade.
I think that there's truthful claims that they living a good life by having a good mind. First of all,
what's a good life?
Letting good words.
How do you tell whether you're living a good life?
I can tell I'm living a good life because I feel content with myself. I feel confident in myself. I feel good in my own skin.
Would it be a good life? Would it be a good life for someone to murder a family of 4? What if they feel content doing it?
That's hardly could make the argument that killing a family of 4 is good. But if you want to make that, argument,
I literally just used
good, it was your example. Go ahead.
Okay, now I'm muting you again. Listen to me. Listen to me very carefully. I literally just asked you, how do you tell if you're living a good life? And you said that you know because you're content. And so I said, what if somebody is content to kill a family of 4? And you said, that's no way to determine if something's good. I fucking agree with you. And it wasn't a way to determine where something was good when you tried to use it as a way to tell if something's good. So let's try one more time. How do you tell if you're living a good life?
First, I need to know if killing a family of 4 is good in Matt's eyes.
No, you don't. And the fact that you said that in response to what I said disqualifies you from further conversation today, Wade. Call us back some other time. You don't need to know whether or not I think killing a family of 4 is a good thing. Of course I don't. But what I think is irrelevant to whether or not you think killing a family of 4 is good. And it's irrelevant to whether or not you have a way to tell if someone is living a good life. We've been at this, well, I've been at this for a long time. Eric's been at this slightly less time, but one of the key things...
90 minutes now.
No, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, or your channel and stuff. One of the key things is we know what questions we had to ask ourselves. We know when we were believers and we faced godless, heathen, jackass assholes like me who were asking us, making it so difficult. And how do you know what's good? How do you know what's good? And how frustrating it was to be sitting there and realizing in my heart of hearts that I had no answer. When I was a Christian, I had no answer beyond God. I had no understanding of what morality was, about how to determine whether something was good or not. It was basically divine command theory and whatever you felt like in your heart, because that was God convicting you. That was it. There was no robust model of ethics or morality. There was no appeal to the consequences of actions. As a matter of fact, Christianity in all of its forms, or almost all of its forms, because there's a couple of really weird exceptions out there, is grossly immoral, because someone can live a terrible life and go to heaven under that model and get an eternal reward, while somebody else can live a good life, but by failing to meet whatever the eschatology or the soteriological qualifications are for a particular denomination, spend eternity in hell or annihilation or whatever. I know you know this, Wade, because you're pissed off at Catholicism. I know this because we've spoken before. You're so mad at Catholicism, and you went through a rough time during COVID, and then you found good ideas in Zoroastrianism, so you became a Zoroastrian. I'm glad you found good ideas that were helpful, genuinely. All I care about, for the purposes of this show, is, does that mean that the package of things that are Zoroastrianism is true? That's it. And if you don't have a way to tell it's true, go ahead.
Sorry, Matt. And to flip Wade's claims on their head, and to also tie into what you were just saying about morality, when I left Jehovah's Witnesses back when I was 27, I recognized almost immediately that my entire moral system was dictated to me by somebody else. I knew I was facing down the challenge of learning how the world really works and building a moral system that I could be comfortable with going forward. And you, Matt, are short part with your lectures on secular morality helped me with that. But when I did that, when I left my religion, I became vastly happier, vastly more successful in my life, in both my personal relationships, my career, my stability. like financial stability and stuff, and even my mental stability. Things became so much better after I left religion. Wade, I got the same results that you did by leaving my religion. You got results by going into a religion. And when we tried to identify what exactly about that religion was key, was the actual cause of that result, you said it was good feelings. And then we went on to say, hey, what if it's just the good feelings that did that? Why do you need the extra stuff? At that point, that's where the conversation broke down, because you could not identify what additional claims of Zoroastrianism was necessary to accomplish that. So on my side, I got all that by leaving a religion. You got all that by entering a religion. And I think the commonality between us is I became a more genuine person when I left. I became hopefully kinder, hopefully a little wiser, hopefully just a better human being now that I was thinking for myself. And you did the same thing, except you were using good feelings, which I would argue what I went through was also good feelings. You respected yourself, you respected others. We basically went through the same process, but mine was void of religion and yours had religion. So maybe, like compare and contrast and differentiation, it's just the good feelings. I'm not saying it's just that, but in our cases, the religion's not needed because I didn't need it while you say you did. But we know what the commonality between those two things were. So you don't need religion. And for the record, Wade, not trying to beat you up or anything, what you said you went through is terrible. Nobody deserves to go through that, losing body parts and friends and having been sick with COVID. I'm not trying to beat you up over these things. But if you come in here claiming that Zoroastrianism is true and we ask you why, you need to answer us, because if you can't, don't make the claim.
We've got one last theist and then a couple of atheists to get to today. But our final theist is someone who you've helped. And so even though I've literally already answered this question thoroughly today, we're clearly going to go over the burden of proof here. But Andrew, pronouns are him, Florida or a theist from Florida, says that Skeptic and Scoundrels showed me the immorality of the Bible, but has not disproved God. So welcome to the Hang Up on the Line.
Good evening, gentlemen. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, so I saw a video from Skeptics and Scoundrels criticizing a pastor with a beard because he asked a question, like a super chat, and he basically asked, could God have accomplished his goals without murdering children, women, and babies? And it stumped him, and that really got to me because I used to be a Reformed Christian like that person. So yeah, just that video was really insightful from Skeptics and Scoundrels. So why can't God just, make the world better without ordering warfare or genocide? So yeah, it's really helped me just with my doubts about the scriptures. And so, but I don't see how that disproves God. I'm not saying he's claiming that he has disproven God, but I don't know how you get from the Bible is immoral to there is no God.
Right. So first of all, thank you for the kind words about my video. That's kind of the one that got really big. And I had a lot of fun with that video. And that was the topic of the video was, could God not kill children? Or basically, is God capable of accomplishing his goals without killing children? It is not the goal of that video or the goal of any of my videos to disprove that God exists. I'm an atheist in the most general term. I am an agnostic atheist. I reject belief in a God, but I don't adopt belief that there are no gods. So it's the same way that if you look at a jar of gumballs, I reject the belief that there are an odd number of gumballs in the jar. That doesn't mean I'm automatically adopting there's a belief that there is not an odd or an even number of balls in the gumballs in the jar. Anyway, I'm not out to convince anybody that there is no God. If you define a God and you define it specifically enough to the point where I can identify a contradiction in the description of that God, then maybe we're talking about disproving a God because we've pointed out a contradiction. But in general, for most God claims, I just simply reject the claim. And my video in that case was to point out that this pastor, his name was Pastor Joe, he was defending the Israelites slaughtering the Midianites in Numbers 31, 17, and 18, and down to the point where every single male, even down to toddlers and infants, were butchered by the sword. Virgin girls were taken away to be used as whatever's, sex slaves probably. Could God have done this? Could God have accomplished his goals without those atrocities happening? That was the goal of the video. So I can't sit here and say I'm going to disprove to you that there's or I'm going to prove that there's no God, because that's not what I'm setting out to do. Yeah. So I think he may have misinterpreted the intent of the video.
I have a couple questions, Andrew.
Sure.
Should someone believe in God until God has been disproven?
Should someone believe in God until he has been disproven? Should? I think so. Yeah. Yes. My answer is yes.
Okay. Which God should they believe in? All of them?
No.
Okay.
That's
how do you
impossible.
decide out of if there's 25 gods and none of them have been disproven, how do you decide which one to believe in?
You have to choose one. You have to choose what makes sense to you.
Why not?
Okay,
just
so
reject
what you're
all
saying
of them
is
until one is demonstrated.
Yeah. Why would I need to choose one? Why wouldn't I wait until somebody proves that one of them is real?
You could do that, but
why would that not be the preferred thing? Because of the two of us, I'm saying I'll believe in any God that someone proves is real, and you're saying I'm just going to pick a God that feels right to me, and I'm not going to change my mind until somebody disproves him. But what if it's impossible to disprove that God? Then you will be sitting there believing something that is false forever.
Right. It could be false. I'm at the point where it could be false.
That's not what I'm saying.
But it could be true.
No.
Okay.
Andrew, I'm not saying it could be false. I have no idea if it's possible for there to be a God. What I'm saying is, let's imagine there's just 3 gods and none of them have been proven false. One of them, maybe all 3 of them couldn't possibly be proven false. How do you pick which one of those to believe? Because what I do is I say, I cannot possibly believe that any of them exist until somebody demonstrates that one of them exists. But you called in to say, hey, you guys haven't disproved God. And then you say, well, yeah, people should believe in God until it's disproved. But then when I point out the obvious problem here, you don't have a solution. Do you not care whether or not your God belief is real and true?
I do.
Then what path to truth do you have?
Anymore.
What path to truth do you have?
Cannot.
Then are you done believing in God?
I can't. I'm not.
Why do you believe in something? Why do you believe in something that you can't prove to be true?
Outside of the fear of hell, that's one huge reason. It's built into me.
You're not afraid of the hell of other gods that you don't believe in?
No.
Why not?
Well, I used to be scared of the Calvinist hell, but now I'm scared of just the Catholic hell, because I was a Calvinist like that pastor. So I used to believe God was that evil.
Andrew, I'm not concerned about what you used to do.
Andrew, if you were born in Iraq or the Middle East, do you think you'd be more scared of the hell that their religions preach rather than the Christian hells?
I would.
Okay. Why? So hold on now. So the hell that you believe in, the hell that you fear, seems to be dependent on the area of your birth. Do you not think that's an issue with whether that hell claim is true or not?
Yeah, I do.
Because if you were born in the Middle East, you'd be believing in the Islam hell.
Yeah, there's Buddhist hells. I know.
Yeah, I understand. That's the whole point. There's multiple hells. You believe in one of them, the Christian version, and you acknowledge that if you were born in a different part of the planet, you'd be fearing a different hell. So what does that tell you about the actual hell belief that you're holding?
That there could be just one hell that actually exists, but different religions are just describing it differently because they're using different languages.
Would there be no hells
So
that
it could be
exist?
possible. Yeah, that could be true.
Would there be
too.
no hells? Okay, so
There
why
could
must
be
you
no
pick
hells.
one? Why must you pick one of them?
For safety reasons.
Well, hold on, no. Okay,
What's
so
the safety?
What was that?
What's the safety?
If you pick one and you abide by that, the hope is you won't end up in this one.
So, Andrew, do you realize by choosing the Christian hell, you have really pissed off Allah? And when you go to Allah's hell, he's going to really turn up the heat on you. You're going to make it worse for you by doing that.
Sure.
Do you not see this as a risk? You just said sure. Okay,
Yeah.
so you see it as a risk.
Either
Okay.
way is a risk.
So
Either way
it
is
sounds
a risk.
it sounds like you are just choosing what you were born into. I would even dare say indoctrinated into by whatever religion that you had the misfortune to be born into. You're not reaching these conclusions by any logical thought process. You're just simply going off of, I was born in this religion. This is the hell that gives me the willies the most. I'm going to believe in this hell and try to avoid it. But really, it's just the roll. If there is one hell that exists, it is a roll of the die. By doing this, you may be supremely pissing off Allah and making it much worse for yourself. Or some other god. Or maybe there's a god that none of us have discovered, a hell that no one's ever conceived of, and that's the real thing. And by choosing one of these hells, you're going to make that hell worse. Like, we have all these possibilities that we can't verify, we can't falsify. It is just the roll of the die. Like, do you not see the issue here?
What if there's not a hell at all? What if there's not a hell at all, but there is a being that is judging your ability to honestly interact with reality and reach a sensible decision? And if you get it right, which is to say, I don't have enough evidence to reach a conclusion, that's what gets you a reward. How did you rule that one out?
Yeah. Maybe there is a God. Maybe there is a God who created.
Did you just laugh?
Maybe there's a God who created.
Did you just laugh?
No.
You did, you
Andrew,
fucking liar. When I ask you if you just laughed and you laughed, why would you lie?
Because I got scared
Andrew?
for a second. I didn't want to piss you off.
Okay. Thank you for at least being honest there. I was trying to find out, was that a nervous laugh, or do you find that concept so preposterous? Because that's a key thing. Because what happens with religious indoctrination is that makes you think that the God that you believe in is obvious and all the rest of them are preposterous and everything else is just absurd. And this is a defense mechanism that's built into different religions. And the truth is, when you start talking, Muslims think the Christian God is ridiculous, and Christians think the Muslim God is ridiculous, except for when it's convenient for them to recognize that they're both talking about the Abrahamic God, and then they'll side with the Jews until it's time to war again. But Scientology is patently absurd. Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, pick your poison. All of them point to the other ones as potentially absurd. Cult, by the way, is quite often the label that the big church uses to identify the little church. And so when you laugh at that, I needed to know, for me, and you don't have to answer, was it because you were nervous or because you found that legitimately absurd? And now I know. So thanks.
All right. Yeah. To cap off my point, Andrew, to cap off my point, okay? Neither Matt and I believe this, but let's just think for a moment hypothetically that there is a God. He has a hell. All right. But his strategy is he's going to create all these other false religions with all their false hell teachings. And that's all mankind knows about. And if you select any of them, this God says, hey, This is an incredulous person. I don't want incredulous persons in my heaven. Off to hell with you. And only the non-believers go. That's a possibility. By selecting one, you may be guaranteeing yourself damnation. Neither Matt and I believe that. But my ultimate point of being is, no matter what hell you pick right now, I can tell you exactly what the upfront cost is. You're going to make decisions based off of this belief. You're going to make decisions outside of a rational, logical process. I did it for half my life in the Jehovah's Witnesses. You're going to pay a price now, guaranteed. You're going to make decisions that are going to be in deference to this God, in fear of any consequences if you piss off this God. You are going to pay that price up front now. And I can tell you from personal experience, once I divorced myself from that, once I left my religion and I started making my decisions based on, I want to say logic because I was still learning at the time, but at least just attempting reason and attempting to project in my mind, what are the consequences of these actions in the near future and in the long future? Once I started considering those things, my life became infinitely better. I started making much better choices. So you're paying an upfront cost now, whether you realize it or not. And that's the problem with irrational beliefs. That's why it's important to eliminate irrational beliefs out of your life, because they will influence your decisions and it will close doors, block off opportunities. You will say no to that girl that liked you because she's of a different Christian denomination. You'll say no to that job because it conflicts with a Sunday morning meeting that you're supposed to have at your church. You're going to make bad decisions. Anyway, I didn't mean to steamroll you there, but you understand kind of the position that we're coming from, where if you're making decisions based off of something you cannot confirm to be true, and in many cases what God claims cannot even falsify, it's impossible to determine whether they're false. You're going to make some decisions that are not based on reality.
That's true. I agree. I agree with you. That's
Andrew.
And it's
fear.
And it's perfectly okay,
decision.
Andrew. I'll say one more thing, Andrew. I'll say one more thing, and then I'll let you and Matt talk it out. It's perfectly okay to simply sit back and say, hey, I honestly don't have enough evidence to support any of these beliefs, so I'm going to reserve belief on all of them. I will be belief neutral. You don't have to believe that they don't exist. You just have to simply say, I don't believe they do exist, and just hold that until you have better evidence. And I think a God that values honesty, and I think that a God that values using the brain that he gave you and using rational thinking would value that way more than somebody saying, I pick this one because it scares me the most.
Yeah.
Good.
I will say, I'm going to let you go in just a second, Andrew, because I got two more calls I want to get to before we run out of time. I appreciate your answer and I appreciate your conversation here. I'm reluctant to speak for Eric. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I was going to say, Andrew, you mentioned you saw my video, you appreciated it. I actually really enjoyed conversing with you here. If you go to my YouTube channel, on YouTube, Skeptics and Scoundrels, my email address is there. It's skepticsandscoundrels@gmail.com. I'd be happy to talk to you more about this, even over a Zoom call or something.
Yeah. And what I was going to say, Andrew, is kind of like a parting word for today. Happy to talk to you another time. I am reluctant to speak for Eric, but if he disagrees, he can let me know. I don't do this because I'm mad at a God. I don't do this because I'm angry at my former self for beliefs. I don't do this because I'm trying to prove to people there aren't a God to show that I'm smarter or better or whatever else. I do this stuff for two reasons. One, if you're wrong, I want to help you identify that so that you can go on and live a better life the same way I am. And if I'm wrong, I would like somebody to be able to identify that so I can stop being wrong. Now, I agree with what Eric said about, if there was a God, what's it going to value? The notion to me that there could be a good, wise, intelligent being out there who is refusing to give reasonable evidence is absurd. The notion that there is a good, wise, intelligent being out there who cares more about arbitrarily picking people, including hateful bigots, to save, while good people who just sincerely don't believe fall by the wayside, is absurd to me. The kind of God that would value a transphobic, homophobic, anti-woman, anti-person, anti-generosity, anti-charity monster like I see from some in the pew pastors. over some of the decent people who are just trying to make sure that everyone gets to live their life free, engage in that, and involve themselves in the kind of plush grandness of reality, that there's something wrong with loving someone because of what gender they are, that there's something wrong with caring about other people, that there's something wrong with sharing the wealth, that the notion that any of those things would ever be prized, or that women would be inferior, or that they shouldn't have property, or that you can have people as property. Any God who advocates for any of that is a fucking monster that doesn't, if he's not, I've said it before, if God exists, he's not a humanist, fuck him. But those are the two reasons I do it. If I'm wrong, I definitely want to know, because I want to believe the truth. And if you're wrong, I'd like to help. This is not a, let's get people to call in so we can make them look foolish. No, we're not making anybody look foolish. Religions are making people look foolish. And I appreciate your honesty earlier, Andrew. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Have a good night, bud. All right.
And yeah, for the record, I'm pretty much in alignment with most of what you just said. I'm here to test claims, test myself, and to hopefully come a little bit closer to what the actual truth is on matters. So that's why I'm here.
We have two callers, both atheists, who have been on hold for over 2 hours. And that's why we're going to run a little bit long here before we get super chats. Ari in Arizona. Or is it Ari?
Ari.
Ari, EM,
You had
welcome.
it right the first time.
So welcome to the show. I apologize because you've been on hold for like 2 hours and 12 minutes, and you emailed, and I know exactly what you're going to say. But I got to get through this in a reasonable time. So take a minute.
I'll be very, very fast because honestly, I'm much happier when you talk to theists than when you talk to atheists. So I'm fine with that. Just going straight into it. Basically, I'm very concerned about the upcoming election. Year and a half, I guess, away. But and I believe that Joe Biden has not just been an adequate president, but has actually been a good president who has accomplished an awful lot. And I guess I feel that both you and Jimmy, who I respect and admire a lot, kind of treat him as sort of the lesser of two evils instead of seeing him as a good president. And I guess I don't feel like you give him quite enough advocacy. And I guess that's kind of what I'm hoping for, is that over the next year, I will see more advocacy from both of you in the attempt to make sure that we end up with a good president for another 4 years.
Okay.
I guess that's it. I do have a syllogism to kind of show why I think he's a good president, but I don't know if it's necessary or not.
I think he's a good president.
Okay, that's excellent. I guess
too.
maybe I'm just
I think it depends on the
misunderstood.
standard. I think it depends on the standard you measure that goodness from, but I also think in ways he's a good president as well.
Yeah, I think part of the problem here is that while this show is certainly more political than other shows that I do, we're focused on the problems. I don't believe you've heard me talk about President Biden much at all since he got elected. So it's not just that I'm not, pumping up a lot of hot air about how good of a president he is or isn't. It's that I'm not really spending much time talking about him at all.
Fair enough, and I think maybe that's also kind of part of it, and I think that will probably change. I know the last time that the elections were near, you spent a lot more time on politics than you did on religion, and I expect that will probably happen again as the election gets closer. And so perhaps I just need to wait for that to happen, I suppose.
I would think so, and considering the patience you showed waiting 2 hours to get in to make that point, I think you'll be fine.
Like I said, this is important to me because I am very concerned about what could happen if we don't spend enough time making sure that the people who do listen and respect you know that you think he's a good president, know that we need a good president.
Well, I'm wondering.
And I guess that's it. I'll let you do your other things.
let's say that you and I weren't convinced that Biden was a good president, but we were still convinced that he was the best option. I don't necessarily, I mean, the lesser of two evils is still the better option, but I don't tend to always think in terms of the lesser of two evils. But let's say he wasn't a particularly good president, but he was the better option. Why wouldn't that be enough?
For the mere sake that there are so many people who I am afraid just simply won't vote if they don't think that they're getting a good option. I fear for people who will say, yeah, Biden's better than Trump, but it's not worth my time because he's not really great. And I feel like every single person that can go out and vote is important.
That's more of an issue of getting people to vote. And if you think people are going to go out and vote just because I said that I think Biden's a good president and not just the better option, I'm not convinced that that's the case. We've seen poll numbers. We know what percentage of the population does turn out and doesn't turn out. We saw what they did and what they didn't do when it was clear and obvious that one choice is like the notion that Trump's poll numbers are increasing, that he can do that town hall that he did the other day and gain support from CNN.
Terrifying.
It doesn't matter how good of a president Biden is. I mean, it's nice that he's better than most people expected. All we're going to be fighting is the who's too old to be president and who's not. That's the number one issue. It's going to be how old he is.
I agree.
But, well, then it doesn't matter how good he is.
I kind of think it does, but at the same time, I also don't know that you give yourself enough credit for how much and how many people listen and respect your views. And I do think that there will be more people that I think that you can actually convince more people to vote than I'll be able to. Let's put it that way.
I think
I'll be spending all of my time doing that.
I think there are only two types of people tuning in to listen to me. One are people who already agree and are going to vote the way I'm going to vote, and one of the people who are absolutely not going to vote the way I vote out of spite or ideology, and they're watching for a different reason. I don't think that there's a huge contingent of unassigned people listening to me talk about politics.
I think that's probably true, but I do think that there's at least some people who might not take the time to vote at all, but might take the time to vote if you show how incredibly important you think it is.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing, but I guess I'm giving you a lot more credit than you're giving yourself in that regard. I think people respect and listen to you a lot more than you might think.
Well, we'll see, because we're definitely going to be ramping up conversations about political talk. And Jimmy and I can virtually guarantee we'll be live streaming debates and doing more shows that are tied to that. Jimmy can chime in now if he's got thoughts on that.
I've been waiting for an invite because he mentioned me at the beginning, but I didn't want to be rude.
No. And Jimmy, I have heard you specific. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just a second. One, I sort of have an incredulous, what the fuck do you think we did last time? I'm the resident socialist who doesn't think that Biden has gone far enough. I think that he was very dishonest in his campaigning to the promises that he knew he wouldn't be able to deliver, to be able to close in Georgia and those things. And there's lots of problems I have with Biden. And yet, I don't know any, like, we did it last time. I had those problems beforehand and was like, it's still extremely important. And I've been surprised at how effective he's been in certain areas, and that he was pulled left on a bunch of issues that I didn't think he would budge on. But so I had this sort of incredulous, like, do you think we're going to do something different? But then also, maybe you didn't notice the announcement. We've already announced that we're launching in September of a Monday through Thursday show that will be every day focused on politics and current events. And that's very much to be the year leading up to the election, though we'll still hold on to it after. So I guess the only thing that I'm sitting here going, Ari, is maybe you think he's a way better president than one of us do, and we could debate that point, but I don't see it as entirely useful. I definitely don't think he should be the nominee this time around, but that doesn't matter. He's going to be. And so I think at best you're saying, like, should I lie about how I feel about him? Are you saying even if I don't think he is the best president, I should encourage people to vote for him, but under false pretenses, or what?
Not at all. I think that I could, maybe I'm wrong, but I believe that I can show you plenty of things that actually of his campaign promises, I think Biden has fulfilled and at least is trying to fulfill almost all of them. I can think of only 2 campaign promises that he hasn't even attempted to fulfill. But aside from those
I can also give you a list of great things that he's done. It doesn't mean that I think that in totality he is the best candidate now amongst the Democratic options, or that he was the best candidate in 2016. But it's still going to be, it's not going to stop me from urgently telling people to vote for them. And I'm usually the one who says shit like, I think last time around I kept ending shows with, if you don't vote for Biden, I hate you. Like, I don't know what you want from me, man.
I guess all I wanted was more of what we had last time, more sooner, I guess. And by the way, I didn't hear the announcement about the political show coming up. So
well, we're still
that is
fucking,
part of it, I guess.
September 1st.
We're still fucking exhausted from last time, so it's not going to happen sooner. And Kenny Smith, who said,
Fair
Matt
enough.
and Jimmy, please don't go political. Where the fuck has your head been for the last few years? But on that note, Ari, I got to let you go.
That was good.
I understand. Thank you very much for the time. I appreciate it. Good night, gentlemen. And by the way,
Oh, God, you said good night, and my trigger finger hit.
I bet
So
you it
the
was,
by the way, I
I'll
guess
just
you have to call
imagine.
another time.
I'll just imagine what he's going to say.
I think we all know.
Eric, I'm sending you $100,000.
Oh, no.
I
I
think he was
assume
sorry.
it would be, by the way, Jimmy, go fuck yourself. That's how a lot of people
It could be.
Yeah.
There very much could be. It could also
I
be
choose to
great
believe what I
guest
want to
tonight.
believe.
Yeah. And if he would have said great guest tonight, I would have agreed. Last call. Daniel in California, pronouns are he, him, wants some advice. So Daniel, welcome to the show. I cannot guarantee that any advice any of us give is going to be good, but what advice are you looking for? We'll try and help you out and then move on to super chats.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I just was looking into you, help me make this decision, and Aron Ra and Jimmy and all of the other guests, a lot of the other guests that you've had to pursue atheist activism against religious extremism. And I was wondering, what would be things that I could avoid starting out, and whatnot, and just general advice about atheist activism from someone who's done it for 20 years.
Well, do what you love. Don't pretend to know shit you don't know, and try to find, if you come up with an idea for something, see if it's already being done and there's a way for you to get involved and help. There's plenty of organizations that are desperately in need of more volunteers. I mean, if it turns out the best thing, you're the best person to do live calls on a show, then absolutely do that. And if it turns out you're the best person to be the accountant for somebody who's doing that, then do that, because there's lots of opportunities. There's a whole bunch of unsung kind of heroes in the secular community. And one of the things that I've tried to do here and a little bit on other channels is try to point you to voices that you may not have heard. And hopefully we can keep doing that. Just stick with your passion of what you feel you're best suited for. I'm not big on advice. I'll tell people when they're fucking wrong. I'm not going to tell people how to live their life.
Okay, that's a fine way to go about things. And I do want to tell you that you did impact the way that I will vote in the future through you telling your political beliefs, giving your reasoning. So you have at least affected one person. So if you do want to, I will give you that credit. Maybe, yeah, that's it.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. Well, I
hate to
appreciate
make you
it.
wait.
That's all I have. Yeah,
So
it's fine.
2
It's
hours and
important to
28
me,
minutes
so-
on hold for 3 minutes live. So you should definitely,
You know what?
you should definitely hang up on me.
Okay, goodbye. And yeah, go fuck yourself, Jamie. Just kidding. Whatever. Bye.
Just kidding. See, I undermined it. Well done.
Matt,
All right.
Have you seen the no, you're done for channel members emojis yet? I'll hit enter on it now. I didn't know if
I
you
don't
knew
know
we
anything
launched
about
this.
channel emojis.
Go look at the most recent message.
Oh,
from the
that.
line. Yeah.
That's so small that I can't
Fancy.
read it. So I've seen it pop up. It looked like a fucking birthday cake or a piñata.
Well, we're doing our best, okay, man?
No. I appreciate what it is now that I know what it is. It's just that every time I popped it up, I have bad eyes now. I used to have the best eyes, and now I have two pair of glasses, one to see the computer and a different one for when I have my phone. And so with my glasses on, I cannot read that, but I can see it. So it's like, oh, it's like a birthday cake or something. But there we go. No, you're done.
I've been lately changing my display settings on my PCs to 150%. And every time I say to myself, stop pretending you have the eyes of a 25-year-old. Just let it happen, man. It's, I'm not even that old. And
That's one of the things that I've had to deal with, because when I was younger, I would crank my computer resolution up as high as the monitor would support because I wanted really small text.
Yeah.
And now when I do that, I'm like, I need my peepers. I need like my glasses. Yeah, it sucks.
In the late 90s, when I was working for Dell, I remember paying a ridiculous amount of money for the best 21-inch monitor that you could get at the time, at the highest resolution, best scan rate, everything else. It was a lot of money. And that was back when I was making, Dell computer money. So, and now everything about my flat screens is bigger and better and more flexible and lighter.
Oh, yeah.
I carried that 75-pound monitor to a couple of LAN parties when we were competing. Oh, I never want to do that again.
I had dual CRT 21-inch monitors, and they were glorious, but they don't hold a candle even to one of my screens I have in front of me here. Yeah.
Yeah, no, these are hot buttered awesome 4K monitors I've got right now. And I could ramp it up. Jimmy, how about we do all these super chats that have been patiently waiting? By the way, Eric, if you need to go, I don't want to keep you forever because I know we've run long, but basically if you can stay, we'll just take turns reading supers. Awesome.
Yeah, I love this. I have all night.
Have you yet noticed that Eric and Dr. Bowen have the same voice?
No.
Well, they do. Just so you know. I don't know. I thought I'd bring it up.
Actually, I have not reached out to him, but I'm actually going to reach out to Dr. Bowen because I want to do a slavery episode. I need somebody who can speak Hebrew. So I'll be, Josh, if you're listening, or Dr. Bowen, I'm sorry you don't know me yet. Dr. Bowen, if you're listening, I will probably be reaching out to you.
I'll make the connection for you. I'll make the connection for you, but everybody watching will need to monitor the screen as it'll be impossible to know who's speaking.
Until it gets time to start doing impressions.
That's true. His Canthoven is undefeated. I feel silly even trying to do it with Josh Round.
I'm not sure what you're asking, Rem. Yes, I play chess, but that wasn't the reason for the monitor. The monitor was for, well, at the time, I went to QuakeCon 97 and was playing Quake competitively before moving on to run the #1 Counter-Strike team on the planet. All right, super chats. $10 from Larry Fishman. I just want to say good luck. We're all counting on you. Thanks so much. And also, I saw your comment, but I didn't see a reply from you, so I'm not sure I understand. But thanks, Larry.
Well, this is a movie quote.
It is. Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah.
All right, so we alternate? My turn?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, 1999 from Greg Markowski. At the theater tonight, I'll watch the show tomorrow. Well, thank you, Greg.
Thanks,
even though
Greg.
you're probably here to hear it, but yeah.
Yep. Hope you enjoy it, and hope you enjoyed whatever was at the theater.
I think I know, and the audience and I would actually appreciate it on a scale of 1 to 10, Matt. You rate Guardians of the Galaxy.
Sorry, what?
The new Guardians of the Galaxy. Have you seen it? And what will we give us a score 1 to 10?
Yes, it's the best Marvel movie since Endgame, and probably the best of the Guardians. I don't want to give any spoiler review. It's the first movie I've seen in a long time that I would actually say, yes, I would go back and see it in the theater again a second time, but I'm not going to.
Well, I haven't seen it yet. I was about to invite you for the second, but I already have my no.
Well, if you want to go, I'll go with you. It's just I wasn't going to go see it, just me and Arden.
Hell yeah.
$10 from John Muir. Eric's face when Rick said he was going to bring on someone who'd been to hell made my whole night. Too bad Rick couldn't back it up. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy.
I was about to ask him because I kind of inferred that from his previous couple sentences. I was like, oh my God, this guy thinks he knows somebody that came back from hell, like literally. And so I was about to ask that, then he said it. And that's why I smiled so big, because I read his mind, basically, or basically I inferred correctly from his previous sentences. And I would love to talk to somebody who claims they came back from hell. I have so many questions I would love to ask that person.
Somebody tried to get me to do a debate with Kent Hovind just the other day, but that didn't work out. So I'm doing a different debate.
Nice. Okay, so we have $10 from Ember. Ember, hey man, nice to see you. Ember and I have done a live stream together. I think we're going to be doing another one here in the near future. He has a good channel. Awesome. $10 from Ember. Matt, watch out. Eric may be possessed by demons. Those first two callers were a great demonstration of why skeptic-oriented efforts are still so very necessary. Jimmy, go bless yourself. And Ember's referring to my channel. It's been like the month of the demons. I think I've had maybe 3-4 videos. Well, one prepared video and maybe like 3 live streams on the topic of demons. So a theme is emerging on my channel, I think.
$10 from Apex Sinister. Thank you very much. Praise be to our Leviathan lobster god. Yes. It's all about the lobsters.
$9.99 from Claire. What would you say to my mom who says content like this is brainwashing me and turning me into an atheist? She says I need to listen to the other side of religion, also politics, but she never does that.
Yeah,
well,
it's funny how yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people believe that just because listening to other opinions being brainwashed. I came from a religion that actively told me do not go and listen to other opinions, and I was being brainwashed. So Claire, I would probably just, it depends on how you want to do it. If you're in good terms with your mom, joke around that you are being brainwashed while demonstrating you're not. Or if you want to take it more seriously, explain to her. A really good one is Stephen Hassan's The Bite Model, about how cults brainwash people. And part of that Bite Model is information control, and how if an organization or people are restricting or trying to discourage you from taking in information from a source, they are likely themselves under the control of a high control group or trying to brainwash you. There's a bit of irony, backwards counterintuitiveness to it.
Invite your mom to watch. Invite your mom to call in. Invite your mom to have her favorite pastor or favorite apologist call in to show us up. Brainwashing, I mean, what she's suggesting is indoctrination. And that's not at all what's happening, to merely challenge beliefs and question things. To the extent that there's any brainwashing going, yes, I would love to wash every brain and scrub it clean of the poison that religions and bad thinking and failed critical thinking have put in there. But at no point is anybody here doing any indoctrinating. None of us are telling you what you have to believe or else. It's religions that tell you what you have to believe or else. I told her, this is also from Claire, I told her theists call in. She only cares about real theologians or clergy. And she says response videos only show stupid stuff people say, twist words. She said, it's like when people make fun of Fox News. People should make fun of Fox News. Fox News is not news. Fox News has admitted in court that they are nothing but a show, that no one should think that what their hosts say is real, that this is just a TV show. But if your mom only cares about experts in clergy, then maybe your mom should shut up. Is she an expert? Is she clergy? Why should we be listening to your mom? I mean, I'm not trying to start a fight with you, but I can't help when my brain goes there. It's like, oh, you're only going to listen to the experts? Fine. Which of the two of us is closer to being an expert, me or your mom? Oh,
you need to go back.
Did we miss one?
Go back to Nitty.
Yeah, we need to go back.
Yeah, go back to Nitty. Hey, all right, $10 from Nitty, another one of my buds. Eric killed it as a co-host. Thank you, Nitty. I really appreciate that. More skeptic tonight than Scoundrel. That was the goal. I'll allow it. Also, Jimmy, go fund yourself. So
nice.
to kind of coattail on what Nitty just said there, skeptic and Scoundrel, I try to do my prepared content, or when I'm doing stuff like this, I try to be more serious, more skeptical. When I do YouTube shorts, I'll be a Scoundrel. I'll poke fun. I'll rib Christians and atheists alike. That's where I can kind of blow off steam. But in this type of environment, I'm going to be more skeptic than anything.
$10 in deep drinks. Hey, deep drinks. Great to see Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels on the line. Matt and Eric are the new dream duo for me. Keep up the great work. Friends, P.S. Jimmy, go fuck yourself. Yeah, no, I mean, if I forget to say it at the end, I've absolutely loved having Eric on and would have him back anytime. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Thank you,
I
Matt.
mean, I'm a little hurt about that's the new dream duo. You know, there's a different show where Matt duos with someone else, but whatever.
Move over, Jimmy.
I'm sorry. I'll take everyone's advice and go fuck myself.
That's probably good.
$10
Here we are back at the beginning.
from Larry. Oh, is it, or is it a repeat?
Yeah, they sent it twice.
Cool.
Okay, $10 from Larry Fishman. Maybe he wanted to have it said with the cadence and delivery that Larry Nielsen did in the movie, which I'm not capable of doing. But I just wanted to say good luck. We're all counting on you. Exit stage.
$20 alleged dollars from Canadian. Hey, Kathleen, thanks again. Kathleen Moncrief, again, great show tonight. Always a good night when a lot of theists call. I agree. Underscore line, go fuck yourself, Jimmy. I love it when we get theistic callers, and hopefully, I mean, there was somebody in chat who was not very happy with me tonight, and there's always going to be somebody who's not thrilled, but there was a conscious effort to not only get more theists involved, but to make sure that we're dealing with theists in a way that doesn't represent Matt's jaded, and Matt knows where you're going to get 20 minutes before you get there and just calls it out right off the bat. Because I don't think that's always helpful, even though it can be fun. And also, as a reminder, we're gearing up for the new show, End Boss. I'll give you the super quick rundown. You can apply to be a challenger on End Boss. Consider it the debate gauntlet, only instead of two people dueling it out, you get introduced. You get 10 minutes to present your case, which will have already been discussed ahead of time. There'll be a couple of quick minutes of the End Boss asking clarifying questions in an attempt to accurately steelman your position, something I tried to do earlier tonight as well. Then there will be 30 minutes of questioning from the audience via super chat and calls that the End Boss will basically curate and make sure that the best questions are getting through while taking notes and everything else. Then there will be 10 minutes of directed questions from the End Boss as your final little test in the gauntlet. And you will actually get the last word. Technically not the last word, because we'll always close it out with goodbye, thank you for watching. But you will get to, get to state your case, go through the gauntlet, face the End Boss, and end with your thoughts on it. But I'm looking forward to it. And if you go to Q&A, and that's Q-N-A, not Q&A, Q&Aline.com/endboss, you can fill out the form. If you're a theist, if you've got some ghost belief, if you're opposed to evolution, and I'm not always going to be the End Boss. Who knows? Eric could be the End Boss someday. It depends on what the subject is and who people would like to face. But thanks, Kathleen.
I did manage to find this for you.
Cool.
I just want to tell you both, good luck. We're all counting on you.
That's the movie quote where we've been referencing all night.
Yes, I'm familiar with it.
cookies.
It's just that it doesn't resonate with me at all.
It's all good.
Yeah, I got cookies, as Steely pointed out, that he actually said it multiple times in the movie, and I think that's what Larry is going for. And I think he said it 3 times. So I'm going to predict we're going to see one more super chat from Larry. Yeah. Okay, $9.99 from Jimmy Snow. Who's that guy? Sounds shady.
Some douche.
Matt began the show by lamenting he may be jaded and see that the world is only getting worse. Oscar Mayer announced that the Wienermobile will be renamed the Frankmobile. Matt's right. The world is lost.
Wow.
I absolutely agree. Yeah. Sad day.
It's terrible.
For whatever this douche's problem is, he does make a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, he should like host a show sometimes.
No.
Nah. You don't want that. $10 from Gnorp Florbson. What are some resources that best contextualize, summarize, interpret the Bible using reliable methodology to try and answer questions like, does the Bible actually say folks burn in hell? Well, this question shouldn't be as difficult as it is. I tend to just read the Bible. And then I have a tool called E-Sword. So if you go to, I think it's e-sword.net, you will get something that will have a bunch of different versions of the Bible, cross-reference with Bible dictionaries and with concordances and a number of different, like, can I share my screen? I've shown this before. Just go to e-sword.net. You can find what, and I listen to, all these people who are like, oh, you're just here to bash. No, I spend most of my time when I'm studying the Bible reading what Christians and Christian theologians have to say about what the Bible has to say, because I don't want to be attacking a straw man. If, when the caller called in with, like it says in Romans 1:1, he was actually referencing Romans 1:20. Which is one of the most common apologetics things. It says, for the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Basically, it is, look at the trees. God's shown you that he exists. You are without excuse. There's a bit more to this beyond that. And but that's my favorite utility for Bible study stuff. The other thing is, it may not matter. And that's why I want to warn you, because I've debated a lot of Christian apologists, and they do not, yes, Cookies, that's correct, E-Sword, and they do not agree on what the Bible says or what the Bible means. And so you have to tailor to the person that you're engaging with. If you're talking to a Catholic, you're going to have different concepts and different apologetics than you would with a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon or a Southern Baptist or an Episcopalian. And so while it's nice to know, basically just imagine that you are putting a different Christian from a different denomination up to debate that person. And if you don't know it as well as that other one to battle, wow, I don't think that sentence made any sense. So I'm going to stop. I got halfway through a sentence and realized I don't think what you said just made any sense. Use that utility. Be prepared to tailor things to what the person you're talking to believes, because it does not do you any good to try to talk about transubstantiation, which is a Catholic doctrine with the Eucharist, to a Southern Baptist. They will just laugh at you and know that you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, know your interlocutor. Definitely, it's a good step in the right direction if you want to convince them. $20 from Ari, one of our callers tonight. What I was going to say is that while I don't know Eric before tonight, I very much appreciated meeting him, and I will be checking out his channel. Great show as always, and of course, Jimmy, go fuck yourself. Thank you, Ari.
I would like
appreciate
full credit.
I had
of the three of us who predicted what Ari was going to say, I was the one closest to right. I want full credit for that.
He actually sent me an email and said he only wrote that because he wanted to please you. You can't prove he didn't.
Did you send that email to me as well? $9.99 from DJ. Awesome show as always, Matt. Please reintroduce the gentleman on the right. Well, there is no gentleman on the right. Super chats are on the right now, but I will reintroduce you. There's a link down below in the chat to the Skeptics and Scoundrels channel. This is Eric, a former Jehovah's Witness, who's been running this channel for 6 months, dedicating his life, or at least this portion of it, to advocating for skepticism and critical thinking skills.
I am at least dedicating my midlife crisis to this.
Yeah. I don't think my midlife crisis is ever going to end.
I'm fearing mine's going to be perpetual till I die. Okay. $10 from Too Young to Feel This Old. Hey, on topic. I must content the both of you for the staggering amount of patience you both had with these callers tonight. Absolutely impressive. I would have lost my cool so much faster. Hashtag go fuck yourself, Jimmy.
Thanks, Too Young.
Yeah, so I think it's easy if people aren't. I guess probably the best way to handle any type of frustration or anger is keep in mind in an environment, in a forum like this, while as nice it would be to convince your interlocutor of the irrationality or problems with their position, that's not really the goal. When a caller calls in and we're talking about these things, our goal really isn't to convince that person, as nice as that would be. These conversations are for the benefit of those who are at home. They are not under pressure. They are not under the spotlight. They can consider these things privately without the fear of embarrassment. These conversations are for those people. So us keeping our cool, or in many cases, calling out bad ideas where we find them, bad and disgusting ideas, like slavery and other things, doing that is for the benefit of the audience to help them grapple with these topics more so than the actual interlocutor.
I completely agree. As a matter of fact, I've said pretty much the same thing off and on over the years. Hey, first of all, huge thank you to Eric for agreeing to come over and visit the show. Come back whenever you want, whenever you can. I look forward to getting you on other projects on the line. Thank you to Jimmy for being, an adequate producer and a reasonably good friend. I look forward to what's going to happen. As a reminder, tomorrow Arden and Luxander will be on the Transatlantic Call-In Show. Sunday, Jimmy and myself will be on the Sunday show. On Monday, Skeptalk is going to be Forrest and Erica Gutz-Gibbon. Tuesday, Dave Warnock, Dying Out Loud, will be on for his second show. I hope you guys got a chance to watch yesterday. If you haven't, go back and watch yesterday's show. I will be on there with Dave next week, which I'm looking forward to. Jimmy's like, hey, can you do today's new show? And I was like, yes, please. I would love to. And next Wednesday, I will be back with Aaron Lewis. And I mean, life just keeps getting better. Thank you guys so much again for making my Wednesdays awesome. Thanks to Cookies and all of our moderators in there. I didn't see who all was here. But go give Eric's channel a like, a subscribe, watch some content, and encourage him to make more content so that he'll be around here with the rest of us. And we'll see, because 20 years ago, almost, Jeff D warned me when I first got involved with the atheist community of Austin. I was doing everything. I was doing the Atheist Experience show. I was hosting stuff. I was on the board. I was one of the 2 co-chairs. I became the first president. I was the librarian. I was organizing all of our events. And Jeff, I remember very distinctly warning me, hey, you're new to all this. Don't try to do too much. You will burn out. Well, here we are 20 years later. I'm not still burned out. I may be jaded in some ways, but I at least recognize that. I'm not doing as much administrative stuff as I used to, but I'm doing more shows than ever. It was so funny when somebody came up and was like, oh, I heard you retired from the Atheist Experience. No, I didn't fucking retire. I quit, and, good riddance. But there's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of space for people who feel a need to participate. And it's not just your monetary super chat donations, although we love those. It's not just the support on the Patreon project, although we love that as well. There's a lot of stuff. Jimmy has plans upon plans. We are building up a network with show after show after show after show. And a year from now, when there's a solar eclipse that's going to be best viewed from the hill country here in Austin, we're going to be having the Lion Gathering right here, where you guys can come down and hang out with some, if not most all, of the people who are actively involved on the channel. In the meantime, though, your comments in chat, your promotion of this show and this network is what made sure that there were good theistic callers today for me and Eric to address. If I just promote the show, we're not going to get the same good theistic callers as beforehand, because I've got some of them potentially blocked and some of them just aren't going to like me. As we move forward and get on to NBOSS, which, by the way, will go live just as soon as we get our first qualified submission to be on. So I'm not going to actually give you a date. We have the date targeted. We just don't have somebody for it yet. But in the meantime, there's a lot of stuff to do. Thank you guys so much for making my Wednesdays great. Tune in tomorrow for Transatlantic Call-In Show and go back and watch Dave's Dying Out Loud from yesterday. I promise you there's a lot of fun stuff there. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Good night, folks.
Oh, we didn't tell Eric not to talk. Doesn't know his mic a lot. Look like talking. Not actively talking, because then that would go out. Damn it!
Look at this shit. That's not even right. The fuck is that garbage? Hang on, I gotta go back to.
Where is that? Patreon.com, call the line. That's supposed to be full screen.
Yeah,
Fire
like
the producer.
Oh, now the other one's on there. Fucking incompetent